The goal was to win $1 million. And I was like, he threw me in the deep end as an adult situation. And you just have to figure it out.
That's a lot of work, guys.
My therapist says no. She says I was robbed of my childhood. Sometimes we have a lot of back and forth. I'm like, why do people want to know how I unwind? How is that relevant to their business?
Most times you're mentioning your dad.
But you know what? The problem will be there in the morning. We're not gonna die. Let's all calm down. Like when my subordinates come to me, Madam, we don't know what to do. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know?
That sounds like a very busy childhood, yeah? Totally excited? Are we excited? Are we excited? Let's welcome Doctor. And my name is Derek Mugabi. Once again, I'm a project manager with StartHub, and I also do communication support. And my biggest responsibility today is try to drive the conversation towards the topic we have today. But first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Doctor.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
How was your day?
Hectic.
Tell us about it.
Okay, today was quite busy. I'm always juggling like a bunch of different things at the same time. So I was having a lunch meeting while I was trying to book a trip and coordinate a lot of moving schedules for different people and projects. I had some filming this afternoon with the media team. We're always learning as we film, so it's nice that we do it as a team. So they're giving me feedback as we go. That video wasn't great. This one, let's do it again. Change your outfit. Your hair is messy. Which topics? Sometimes we have a lot of back and forth. I'm like, why do people want to know how I unwind? How is that relevant to their business? So I fight with them a lot about that. But it was really good. We had a bunch of things to film for Save the Children, some to film for Hardworking Women's Community. We've just launched virtual trainings for Ginger, which is really exciting. So now we're looking for women who are based in Ginger and entrepreneurs. We were doing some stuff for the Dubai meetups. We also have a community there for women who work in Dubai. We launched a SACCO this last month, was our first month for Her Finance. Our SACCO is up and running now. And we're also doing financial literacy trainings every month for members of the SACCO. So it's a bit more niche than just generally hardworking women. So it's nice when they get to have filming time with me. I go through all the different brands, what everyone needs. We did some stuff for Uketa, which is the online education platform that we've now had up and running for a few months. And it's doing well. I'm really excited about that. My last born child. So I had to do some promo stuff for that. And last week I did some radio interviews and we had a field event at a conference. So it's picking up and building awareness. I try to be as involved as I can remotely, but engage where you can, because the PR side makes such a big difference when you're growing a business and building awareness and, you know, getting people to understand what you're up to.
Great. If it was a YouTube video, would say a day in the life of Nataliey. Yeah? That's a lot of work, guys. And I know someone in this audience, if they did that much on their status today evening, they would say they need a trip to Zanzibar. Yeah, but thank you so much. So a quick question. Who is Nataliey?
Who is Nataliey? I think my Instagram says African woman entrepreneur. In a nutshell, I think that describes who I am and what I'm about. So I try to live with my values and be as authentic as I can in the things that I want to focus on. And it's something that I think is always evolving. You're always changing and growing and adjusting. And me, I'm a type A person, so I'm always measuring and tracking how I'm doing as a person in my own development. And if I'm living true to what I say I want to be and who I am. So it's something that I keep trying to learn about and grow and improve. And then I measure myself every month.
Great. But outside the business world and outside some of these amazing things that you're doing, and many of these people know, I would want to know on a personal level, because we know just a few. We know the surname, which is a big name in this country, Bitature, but we want to know on a deeper level. Who are you? Probably where were you born? How was your story? Because that's the point of this event. We want to know your story even outside the business.
Okay. You know, I always find this question so funny because I'm like, it's so boring.
Well,
But
is it boring, guys?
if you want to know, I always joke that people do this in interviews and I'm like, tell me a bit about yourself. And they're like, I was born in 1962 in this village. And I'm like, that is not relevant information. But for this audience, if you would like to know, I was born in London in 1989 to a business family. So that's what I grew up knowing and being. I have two brothers who were born quickly after me, and my sister is 12 years younger than me, so I didn't really grow up with her, but from when I was a teenager, it's like a second mom. because of the way my family is, everyone I know was an entrepreneur when I was growing up. Everyone walked in and out of the business. I think I had one auntie who was a lawyer and worked separately, and one worked in Bank of Uganda. So when I was younger, I'd always find their work stories so fascinating. Like, yours is a real office, because our offices are always chaotic. And my dad would always take us to work with him and after school on weekends, and he'd let us like do stuff or ask questions. And because my dad is a serial entrepreneur, I think I got exposed to so many different things as a kid. And I didn't realize that, you know, when you're a kid, you think what you know is normal and you don't know what like other people's lives are like, until I went to uni and I was doing business, and no one in the class would know the things the teachers are talking about. And I thought that's just common sense. But I realized these are just like business principles I've been learning since I was a child. Because we just go for everything. There was a phase where we were the distributors for Heineken when it came to Uganda. That was really fun because we got all this like branding stuff. So our house was full of t-shirts, glasses, coasters, everything you could think of branded Heineken, which I thought was cool and I'd give to my friends. And I used to be able to work at the rallies selling beer.
Were you 18 by then?
Huh?
Were you 18?
I think I was like 10.
Isn't Heineken alcohol?
Yeah, but the merchandise, I wasn't like giving the beer, but like they give you all this branding material because you're supposed to flood the market with Heineken t-shirts and sweatshirts and coasters. And we still have Heineken glasses in everyone's house to this day because we all had boxes and boxes of glasses. Or like working in a video store, which my sister's generation don't even know what like physical videotapes were, like the VCRs. We used to have a shop on Kampala Road, and that was one of my first jobs. Get sit on like a high stool, and there was like a system you have to input the videos people are borrowing and taking out. Working in Simba Telecom, that was fun. And when I was in high school, you know how you can do like a week of career experience. So all my friends wanted to work at Simba Telecom because we thought it would be the most fun, and we'd all be like on the different shops on Kampala Road, selling phones, interacting with customers. It was always interesting and different. I get to go to board meetings and take notes. I used to like to go through people's CVs. And in those days, you'd have a physical CV and you'd like staple the passport photo to the thing. And I'd start imagining this person's life and reading about it. So I got exposed to so many different aspects of business. And you'd understand like when there's a rush or when something is busy. I remember when President Clinton came to Uganda. I think it was Clinton. And we were one of the only phone dealers in the country. So we got the contract to get like cell phones for all of him and his team. So we had to get all these hundreds of mobile phones, put SIM cards in them, charge them, organize them, prep them. So me and my siblings are like assembling boxes, charging phones. Our whole house became like another office. So whenever there was stuff like that, my parents would always involve us because they work in the business together. So whatever they were going through, we would also go through it with them. I remember bringing the wrestlers to Uganda. There was a big wrestling event. So our house was full of flyers and we'd have to go to press conferences. So you kind of have a child's view of these things, but you learn that as an entrepreneur, there's no one to turn to. I think that's something I noticed a difference as an adult. Like when my subordinates come to me, Madam, we don't know what to do. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Me, I have no one to say I don't know what to do. I have to figure it out. Because for my whole life, I saw my parents going through that. They're up until late at night figuring it out. What do we do? How are we going to pay salaries this month? They've shut down this. The warehouse is closed. The road has happened. Like no matter what happened, they had to figure it out. And so that's what I always grew up knowing and understanding. And I think that's an advantage now because whenever a problem pops up, my first response is not, oh my God. My first response is, okay, what do we do? This option, this resource, how about this? Can we try it this way? And the more you practice that, the easier it becomes. So you're not as scared of failure or of challenges. And it's like a muscle that you just keep growing so that you learn to be resilient. You learn to see different options for different things. You learn how to adjust and be flexible and pivot, which is so useful as an entrepreneur because nothing ever goes according to the plan.
Great. That sounds like a very busy childhood, yeah, if I must. But then I would want to know, were there times in your childhood where you had a life outside business again? Because I really want to bring out that aspect, or I really want to know if there is that part of Nataliey that is not business, yeah? Because even in your childhood, it's still business, still bringing in stuff. I want to know, did you ever have a moment where you're just a child? Probably watch TV and watch Superman, or just play puzzle or something like that?
My therapist says no. She says I was robbed of my childhood. The truth is I was the oldest. I have three siblings, but I come from a much bigger family, right? So my dad's siblings all work in our companies as well. All their kids, some of them have worked in and out. And I was like a bossy little child. I think because I had to be. Like you're in charge of like 20 kids at any time. And you have to tell everyone what to do. So you learn management skills. That's what we call it, ladies. We're not bossy. You learn them at a young age. And the truth is, my dad doesn't believe in anything except business. So he doesn't even think it's useful to have hobbies or side things or child time. We fought with him this last week. One of my sisters was telling him about like the history of Indian gods. And he's like, why do you know this? It's just wasting your mind, feeling clutter in your brain. You should learn financial literacy skills. She's like, there's no space for anything else. So he always thought it's more important that we learn those things as early as possible. And no matter the situation we're in, he's always like testing you. You'll be at like a concert in London and he's like, how many people do you think are in here? Now, what do you think the margins are on the sodas that they're selling? Do you think that would be a big good business? And like he's always testing you. So you're always like checking and thinking and learning. And that's how you think all the time, which I've learned as an adult is unhealthy. You have to have hobbies and other things. So it's a learning, it's a work in progress.
So moving away from the childhood, growing up and probably noticing that you were robbed of a childhood. Have you tried probably engage in some hobbies right now, apart from again the business? Have you tried to do something that is out of business?
I try. It's the way you think is the problem. You know, like when I think it was Ocean's 11, they say a thief is always assessing what can be stolen, right? You're always doing recon. So no matter what situation you're in, you start to notice business things. I'll be like on holiday and I'm like, I wonder why that wall is there. Is it a supporting wall? Is it a beam? Is it a pillar? Or like I'll take pictures of tiles and send them to my mom and be like, these are non-slip tiles that I've just discovered. We should get these when we're building next. Like your brain is always just doing it. So you have to make an effort to like do other stuff. So now I try. I go for concerts. I like puzzles. Play games on my iPad sometimes, watch TV. I think TV has been like a good escape. My dad likes movies. That's why we had a video store when we were younger. He likes the story of the movie. Like, what's the lesson? What did you learn from this movie? He'll like ask you afterwards. Always. You can't just watch it to watch it. It's nonsense. What are you learning? Like, he doesn't like that. So it's hard to do stuff just to do it. There's a part of me that always feels guilty. But it's something I'm working on because it is important. And I think for me, it was COVID that showed me I have a problem. Like I was a workaholic, but like, it's not a bad thing to be a workaholic. But when everything was shut down, that was weird. Like I saw there's a huge gap in my life. Other people had like hobbies, friends, things that they used to do. Like I have friends, but it like all my will to live was in work. And I was stuck. I got trapped in LA for 8 months. I couldn't fly back to Uganda. I had an injury, so I couldn't even work or walk or like look after myself. And then everything was shut down. For the first time, our hotels, the lights were off. Everything was locked. It was the freakiest thing. And your phone is not busy. You wake up, there's not 100 messages waiting for you. There's no emails. You're just like, what do I do with my day? My skin looked great. I would sleep 10 hours a day. It was fantastic, but it was such a strange thing. And almost, I can understand how people in COVID, like, there used to be jokes, like there were people who started drinking at like in the morning. And then there are people who like started baking and building things and doing things. So that's when I started How Working Women. I had so much time and I don't know how to do nothing, essentially. But when I feel like I'm learning something new, I am an intense person, so I like to immerse myself in something, right? So when this is the thing we're learning, this is the new sector, this is a new idea, I want it everywhere. I want to hear about it, read, listen, YouTube, podcasts, ask people, spend all my time absorbing. And then you always like self-correct and balance. So I always try to go too far and then you balance in. So in COVID, we had all this time, try and learn to relax, learn hobbies. I tried baking and PlayStation, swimming, like different things. And then now, I don't want to go all the way back to what I was like before COVID. So now I try to make sure I'm not working at all hours. Yes, you're emailing me at 11 p.m., but you know what? The problem will be there in the morning. We're not going to die. Let's all calm down. And that's a new skill that I think I'm learning and working on to make sure that you do have balance and you do add other things because life is long. You don't want to look back and you missed out on things because you were working too much or the business was always the priority. And I think it's easy to lose touch with that, especially when they're your businesses and like you care so much. I know we have employees like that. One of our hotel managers lived in the hotel for 3 years. Like she was there and I know what that feels like. So I get the level of passion and intensity I think is necessary, but you also have to sort of take a step back every now and then and self-correct and say, have I gone too far? Moderation. I want to be a little bit like this. That's why I say it's important to measure and track stuff.
Great. I think when it comes to having a childhood, I'm defeated. Probably it was totally taken away. But I want to go back now to the business side, because it looks like your childhood was really business and a lot of learnings. But were there particular struggles? Yeah. Being in this life of business, having to interact with people who have probably been in business for 20 years, but then you're trying to manage them. I listened to one of your stories when you just entered real estate, and how these people were treating you and how you reacted. But beyond that, were there other stories that you look back and you're like, this was a struggle in my childhood when I just started business?
Well, I think the biggest struggle for me is always people, if I'm honest, when I look at everything with a business, because everything else you can be logical about. There's a technical solution, there's an answer, you can find it. Human beings, every time you think you've seen it all, you see something. Last week I did appraisals, it's June. I was in this guy's appraisal for an hour and a half. I was like, what the hell is this? And I talked to his line manager, who she's away on leave, so I was stepping in. Normally, I would not do his appraisal. I was like, you deal with this guy every day? Why does he work for us? Because you think you've learned how to manage different personalities, different people, different systems, incentives, punishments, what? And then every now and then you get someone and you're just like, wow, I am humbled. I am still learning. Because, and I think it's always human beings. Even when I was younger, I think now, by the time I get somewhere, most of the time, my name has reached the room before me. So I don't get treated as badly as I used to, or as condescending, or people make assumptions. They still make assumptions. But at least now I have something to stand on. It's not so bad. But I think even when I was younger, dealing with people's personalities, and I didn't have the experience how to navigate that. And of course, you're being put in positions that you're not exactly qualified for. So I think there's two sides to that argument. I can understand why people put their children in these positions, because the exposure I've had to our businesses and to the way my dad thinks, there's no one who can catch up with me, because I have 20 years advantage on you, right? Even if you're a qualified manager. So it's your other skills that need to grow. So like when I'm in my 20s, my soft skills, I didn't have experience, I didn't have judgment, so I didn't know how to navigate these things. As much as I understand the business, I understand the technical part, I understand the goals, I didn't know how to deal with difficult teams, being on construction sites with men who are speaking a different language from me and making fun of me and don't listen when I'm trying to tell them. And so you have to experiment and have different ways and different styles until you find your own management style that you can live with and you can work with. So if I look back and I can see, you can even see a change in how I used to dress, how I used to act, the way I used to run things in the office, and now the way that I do things, it's because of time. You can't cheat time. You can't cheat experience and judgment and wisdom, no matter how much technical stuff you do. And I think that's been one of my biggest learnings, because it's human beings you're dealing with. When you work in business, you're not just coding and dealing with what you're dealing with, or you're not just making the food and serving the customers. You have stakeholders, you have to get licenses, you have to have difficult staff, difficult customers. It will be an accident on the road and now your business can't work for 4 days. Like, it's always human beings that are going to be the problem. And so you can only plan so much for that. It's about having the ability and the confidence to handle the situation as it happens, so that when it's happening, you're not in panic mode, you're mitigating the consequences. Because with time and judgment, you now know, oh, last time this happened, this is what happened. These were all the consequences in the business. We have to make sure this doesn't happen again. And that one, I think it's just time and experience that you get. You can't prep for it or be trained for it. It's good to have the theoretical knowledge. It's one of the things I was telling that guy in the appraisal, man. You need leadership training in theory, so you learn the frameworks, the skill set, so that you have the awareness to know when to pause, how to get buy-in, how to lead a team. But then you need the practice at the same time, so that you implement the skill. Otherwise, it's like saying, I've learned how to play football from YouTube. You're watching, but you're not playing. You can watch all the football, it doesn't make you a football player. So you need the combination, I think, to have the right support so that you can see better results.
Great. So the beautiful thing is that this conversation is later going to shift to people, because we want to really understand the aspect of social entrepreneurship, which you are a genius at, and I think it was part of your master's. Was it your master's? So a follow-up question on what you've just submitted. Most times you're mentioning your dad, and I want to know probably how it was growing up in a business family. Where I grew up, we were farmers, so I don't relate a lot. Probably you could tell us how it was growing up with Mr. Bitature, and probably the pressures from him. And you do not mention a lot about your mom. Maybe you could also take us through that side, because I really want to bring out the childhood so that everyone here understands. Everyone here understands that it didn't start from nowhere. There was a foundation, so they really understand that foundation. Yeah.
So my mom is there. She's a very big part of my life. And it's funny to say, but my mom has like a bigger personality than my dad. She's just very private as a person. So she's not like out there in the public. And she's a very strong force. My dad is a very calm person. He's not confrontational. He's not aggressive. My mom is like a force to be reckoned with, right? In everything she does. So I think we all got a bit of both of them. And what's interesting for me is they're total opposites, right? So my whole childhood, they have never agreed on anything. Which school do they go to? What should they eat? What should they wear? What should they be like? They always have like completely opposite like understanding. So if you make one happy, the other one's going to be upset. If I look like this, one will complain, one will say I look nice. So you have to learn to juggle, but also it gives you like diversity in opinions. You know that both sides are right and anything is possible. Because my dad comes from like rags to riches kind of story where he had to go through so much struggle and hardship and so many extreme situations. And my mom comes from a family where her dad was a doctor and her mom was a nurse, and they lived like a very stable, organized life. So she's very like organized, keep time, good manners. The things that are important to her are like, those things. And my dad is more like, go with the flow. Anything is possible. So you kind of like pick up on both, and it's useful, and you work with both of them. And I think I got asked that a lot when I was a child. What's it like? He's your dad. And I'm like, that's just my dad. For me, it's nothing exciting or special. And sometimes he'll be arguing with us and he's like, you kids don't even value me. Other people, they will pay to spend time with me and listen to these stories. You guys are just rolling your eyes. We're like, yeah, we've heard this story 1,000 times. So it's nothing special to us. It's only when you compare it or you're in other people's homes that you realize, okay, our house is a bit weird sometimes. And sometimes my mom will say it. She'll be like, why can't we just be like normal people? And we're all like, this is what's normal for us. Because he has an attitude of anything is possible. And he always wants to try new things. And you just get used to the spontaneity of things. My dad will tell you, get up, we're going here and doing this. Or today I've started this whole new business. Figure it out and like walk away from it. That time I worked in construction, we were moving. One of our tenants was moving into an office. So we had to move out of our office and move into a new office. So we give them our office. And my dad basically explained like that to me. This company needs to be here by this date. So you need to move all of these people and everything to this office. There is a budget. Here it is. Us, we've gone to Spain to buy things for the hotel. And they disappeared for 3 weeks. And I'm like...
How old were you by then?
24?
24.
23, 24. And I hadn't lived in Uganda for a while. And I was like, okay, what to do? I have to figure it out. So now you have to figure out all these different things. We have to pack stuff. We have to move stuff. We have to renovate this entire office, which was an empty building, to make it habitable for people. And that was one of my first, he threw me in the deep end as an adult situation. And you just have to figure it out. Ask questions. Who is who? What is your name? What are you in charge of? Do we have a mason? Do we have an electrician? Do we have what? And you piece it together like a puzzle.
Didn't he introduce you to anyone?
Nothing.
Wow. Okay.
Here's the money. Bye. And you can't also disturb them. They're in another country. They don't know how to use Wi-Fi. You can't send them pictures. What is going on? Get it done. And we have a tenant who has paid money and rent to be in by this day. So now I'm trying to pressure all these people I don't know to be organized, because I'm like, we have to move in. We have to move out to move in so that they can move in. We have to renovate and clean up this one and paint it and brand it and the parking and the walls and all the things they need us to change. I was just completely overwhelmed. And so I realized I need help. I need to ask someone who knows better than me. So one of my mom's cousins she was a land surveyor and she did property development. So I'm like, I need advice. Come ask her, sit for coffee. I have this problem. What do I do? Okay, this is what you're going to need. This is what you're going to do. She helped, broke it down for me. She's like, I'll check on you in a few days. those 3 weeks, I'm trying to get food for the guys to work overnight, be there at night to make sure that they are working, but I have to be there during the day to make sure that they're working. And people don't really respect time in Uganda the way that they do in the UK. So no one is stressed about the deadline the way I'm stressed. And then they're breaking things. I remember approving budgets, like you go through line item by line item, you negotiate with the suppliers, and then they're just dropping a box of lights. I'm like, do you know what those lights cost? We need those lights. And they don't care. And so, like, going through all of that by myself, you kind of have to realize a new thing every day and just learn and get up and go with it. And you're tired, and yet you still like want to have a life. You need to see people, you need to do things, there's other responsibilities. You're not dressed for the site. I had like only work heels and like suits. It's construction, it's messy. One of the days she came to the site, she's like, you're gonna need boots if you're gonna work in this sector. Boots, noted. So you just have to like go with the flow and figure it out. And I think because my dad didn't have anyone to handhold him through stuff, so he was really raised by a lot of these Indian business people in Uganda. So when he had a question or a problem, he'd go to Mzee Mukwano or Karim Hirji or Sudhir Parelia, and they're all like a bit older than him, but not that much. They also all started working when they were teenagers. They were thrown into situations and had to figure it out. So I think that's why he resonates with them, and that's the attitude he has. Anything is possible, anything can be figured out, just do it. Just start and go, and you'll see how it goes. And so that's what I had to learn how to do. I just had more structure because I come from also my mom's background, where she was insisting we went to school, got educated. My dad was not even bothered by degrees. He's like, what do you need a degree for? Who are you going to work for except me? Come and work. But she insisted on us going to school, and she'd also want us to do extra stuff in the holidays, like learning different skills and hobbies and KKL and what. He's like, waste of time. Come and work. For him, that's what he understands, and that's what he valued. And so you kind of have to take both sides and assess things. Sometimes I think about, would I do the same to my children? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? I think it's really good to make kids know that they can figure out their own problems. Don't just solve things for them. Don't handhold them or hand everything to them. Because honestly, sometimes you be in the workplace and you can see the people who have really never had to try. Everything was just lined out for you and given to you, and you just do what you're told and you go, and you don't learn to like think critically, assess, is this the right way? Is this the best way? Is the problem solving? You know, anytime there's an obstacle, you have to run to someone. You need to practice that skill. So I think that's the biggest advantage, I always say, from growing up in a business family or with a father who's an entrepreneur like way mine is you learn those skills. Even my sister, who's only in her 20s now as well, I'm sure we can drop her in the same situation, she'll figure it out. Because she just knows she has to, and she has the ability and the skill to look around, ask questions, problem solve, Google it, figure out what to do. Don't just panic and wait for someone else to solve it for you.
I think that's a big difference in parenting with many of us, with how we were brought up. But now we move to the other part, the second section of the conversation. I remember, I think I was 19 when I started my first organization, and I was creating a team. So one of the people who was in charge of HR, I gave them a title of chief of staff. And I remember when I went to my dad and told him I have a chief of staff, he said, are you creating an army? Because chief of staff is usually in the army, yeah? But then when I was reading your bio, you are chief of staff at Simba Group, yeah? And I want you to take us into you deciding to actually work for your dad, leave alone him saying you're going to work for him, you choosing to work in the family business. How was that, and why did you make that decision? Because you could have done a lot of things. You have a lot of learnings from him. You could have started your own empire and be like, I want to be an independent woman and stuff like that. But then you chose to be to focus on his business. How was that process of making that decision?
You know, I can't say I ever made the decision. I think I've worked and quit and run off and disappeared so many times. Of course, I worked in the companies like during my holidays. Sometimes I'd also work in other people's companies to get like different experience when I was younger. And then I came back after undergrad, worked in Simba. My dad just, I don't know, he gives you problems to solve and you find yourself busy doing them. And I remember at that time, I had moved back and a bunch of my friends had also moved back. And so it was interesting to hear everyone's different experiences. Some had really corporate careers. Some were also in their families' businesses. And the difference I noticed, my Indian friends, they don't even think of something else to do. Like, The family business is all you're ever going to work in. Never think of other things. Don't think of what you like, you don't like, your skills, this is your life. And so I had a lot of friends like that. And I would ask them, how do you deal with it? How do you not fight with your parents every day? Like, how are you handling it? The first thing I realized is you can't live with your bosses. So I moved out in my 20s, I think when I was 23, 24, like, at least let's have some separation. And then I went to do my master's after realizing I wanted to do more. That's why the social impact came. I realized, okay, making money makes sense, but you can't just make money. You know, there's challenges everywhere. There's so much more that needs to be done. And I feel like CSR is not as effective. It's not the only way, but I wanted to investigate it further. So now I first certified my dad for a year to go to do my master's, which he didn't want. And then I finally went to do it. And then that's when I started Musana Carts. While I was doing my master's in social entrepreneurship, we entered a competition, which I reluctantly entered because I also wanted to have fun. I'd not been having fun. I was working too much when I was here. And my roommate was like, no, we're doing social entrepreneurship. We have to be part of it. It's the world's biggest competition, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't think we'd go very far. She'll be happy. And I'm released and I can do other things. Because like I was in San Francisco. There's so many conferences and things and places. Oh my God, Musana took over our whole lives. I think that's 6 months. We were barely even making it all our classes. But because our team did well, and the family that owns our school was one of the sponsors of the Health Prize. So they wanted a health team to win Health Prize because they never win. And so now we were doing so well. The school was supporting us. Musana just took over our entire lives. It's what we were all doing. Our classmates were doing it. We're using it as a case study in class. And it kind of took over. And then my plan was to do work experience in like Ghana, you know, go somewhere different, spend a year or two doing something else, and then I'll come back and work for my dad. And that's what we had agreed. But now with Musana, we started doing everything in Uganda. So we'd even leave school to come here with my team from school to do all the field work, meet the vendors, do the surveys, go to the fabricators, learn what's going to work here. And then my team is like, we have to move to Uganda after we graduate. And I'm like, no. I literally just spent all this effort trying to move here or to go somewhere else. But they insisted and they were so in love with the whole idea. And then we didn't win. So like you spent 7 or 8 months, was our whole life was Musana, and the goal was to win $1 million. And I was like, okay, with $1 million, anything is possible, right? You can start the company, we'll all have salaries, it will be fine. And then on the last day, we didn't win. We came like second or third. Now I was like, what do I do? Because all of us had not filled the paperwork to stay in America, like for visas to work there. I have not applied for any jobs in Ghana, my dream country. And now we're in New York with all these people. My parents were there. We had people from the Ugandan government, Mohammed Yunus, Bill Clinton, and like your whole world is falling apart. So I didn't know what to do. The next day, my parents left. My brother at the time was in uni in Dubai. So I was flying through Dubai to come back home. And I'm just like, I just messed up my whole life. Like I had plans, I had dreams, I had goals. And now I went to a new path with Musana. I had plans, I had dreams, I had goals. And now in one day, it's gone. Like we had raised like maybe $30,000 or $40,000, but we had spent it all on like fabricating, trying out R&D. And meanwhile, my teammates still want to move to Uganda. I'm like, you're moving to Uganda with no money and no plan? No, I'm not doing it. So I refused to do it. And so I went to Dubai and I changed my second half of my ticket. And I'm like, I'm just going to stay in Dubai to cry for a few days. I need some space. And I remember being in Dubai, sleeping on my brother's couch. And my dad is like, you always have a job at Simba. Like, okay. I wasn't happy about it at all. But I said, let me calm, Shah. What to do? Simba has paid my fees. It's invested in me. Let me go and figure out what they're doing. I think at that time we were building skies. So when I came back, I started doing like admin on the site. I refused to be part of Musana Cats. One of my French teammates moved. She lived nearby here. She had never lived in like mainland Africa. So every 2 days she's like, they've stolen my phone. Where do I buy this? I need a fridge. I need a what? I was just like, who told you to come here? But eventually I got over the heartbreak, supported her, got back in the business. And that's when I had to like really assess and see how am I going to spend my time? What am I going to do? Because it's like now too much work to start like planning to move and learn and do everything again. So that's when they created the role of chief of staff for me, because I think at that point I was 28, 29. The chief of staff role, essentially, I always say is chief of problems. which is what I've been doing all of my career anyway. And because I'm related to the founders, I get access to everything, right? There are no documents I'm not allowed to see. So I can move between all the different companies and all the different departments. And my job is essentially to like remove obstacles, remove blocks. What's going on? Why aren't you able to do your job? Rather than make me a manager in one of the technical companies, I worked in the hotel for a while. I worked in construction. I worked in the properties, in the telecoms. But like, I'm not going to learn the amount of technical stuff to really thrive in that job. I think I have the humility to understand. So my job is to support those people because there are some things they can't do. The telecom guy, the hotel guy are fighting for the same budget. The finance guy don't know which one to approve. That's when they call me and be like, what do we do? Okay, let's assess. Who needs what? Why do you need this? Like that kind of work is what my job is. So you're essentially just moving between all the things. So that's when I started doing it. And as we were growing and moving into different sectors, growing how many staff we have, I think for Skies, when we opened, we had 1,000 applications, somewhere in the thousands, to like sift through, to train, to organize. And then also because Simba has been there since I was a child, right? But it's grown over time. And so my dad was one person. He had my mom, his siblings, and everyone would kind of move through the different companies. But there was no real structure, if I'm honest. So we've always had like a central treasury system where the finance is one office and then all the other companies all run separately and finance like supports everyone. But now, by the time I moved back, Simba had like 700, 800 employees. And now you're opening into new sectors. You're doing more. Each thing is growing. So I was like, what I can do to support is to think about Simba's next chapter, right? Because even with startups, the personality and the skill set of the founder is not the personality and the skill set you're going to need once you get to like a corporate level or like a big status. Once you have like 1,000 employees and you have multiple branches and multiple areas, you can't do everything yourself, which is what my dad loves. So it was a big struggle, but you have to think about things like governance, continuity, policies, legacy, systems, all that stuff he's not interested in. Him is like, let's do the business. So then that's what my role became. It's about building out these systems. So now we have heads of department that work across everyone. The media team I was with today, they do all the PR, the branding, the social media, the marketing for every single Simba company. So whether it's telecom or band night at Skies, or now it's Valentine's at Protea, it's the same team, and then they have a system. So they use the same resources, the same budget, the same cameras, the same equipment, and they organize themselves and have brand managers. And you have the same for legal, for IT, for HR, so that there's a structure across. So learning these kinds of systems, trying to research other companies that are bigger than us, how they've done it, why they did it that way, and then hiring these people, building these teams, building policies. Like now we have a proper board, we get audited, there's governance and systems and committees so that one policy works for everyone. The system before is you call chairman. My child is sick. Can I take the day off? Oh, I have a wedding. I need this. Oh, we need this budget to that. And like to manage that in so many different ways is so much. I don't know how he does it, but at least now to put those systems in place became part of my role. And it's chief of staff because at the core of any system is people. And the core of any business is people. So I feel like that's what I've spent the last 7 years, investing in the people, the teams, the structures around them so that Simba can live without us. Essentially, we should all be able to step out, to disappear for a month, for 6 months, retire, and the companies will continue growing, employing people, having an impact in the country. And that's the goal that now the vision has adjusted towards.
Great. Thank you so much again. Then what happened to Musana Cats?
Musana is still there.
So you're able to run Musana Cats while doing that amount of work?
Oh, yeah. Because there's teams. It's never just me. Nothing is only me. Even with Musana, even with her, there's a whole team. Yesterday in the Musana update meeting, I'm like, how's it going? What do you need? How can I help? Like what I'll do for you, Keta, or for her, or for Skies, or for Telecom. Like you get used to juggling everything, but that's why it's about putting the right people in the right place. They know what goes on a day-to-day in that company. They can talk to me when they need something or ask for help or tell me to attend something, but it's supporting them to continue to grow it because you have to be in touch with your customers and with your market every day. And I can't do that for every single company. And I don't think it would do it justice. So Musana is still there.
Great. And what I wanted to really bring out was the aspect of delegation. And what then I'm driving to is that you have other companies you're running. You're running Hardworking Women, and you're opening up very many chapters. You've just talked about a company at the beginning that you're super proud of. Your latest baby, Ukata. Yeah, is that the learning platform? Exactly. And greetings from Ria, by the way. She works with us now. We stole one of her favorite employees, and now she works for StartHub. Now we are doing
It
great,
wasn't
by the way.
StartHub, I would have fought.
And we must say we are doing great in content because of Ria. So thank you so much for sending her over here.
It's a wonderful thing, you know. I always say, like, there's no restaurant I go to in Kampala where one of the waiters or the bartenders or someone doesn't come and say hi to me because they worked in one of our hotels. So like it's you give back in so many different ways and it's so interactive and it's a wonderful thing. So I know I'm very privileged to be able to move across different sectors and do different things, as chaotic as it sounds.
Great. So then let's talk about the multiple businesses that you're running. Give us a bit of your CV. How many companies are you running simultaneously? Because I probably lose count sometimes. How many are you running?
This is a bit of a trick question because I always forget one company and then they get upset when they see like the video. But I'm going to try.
Please don't cut it out. We need to record that. Yeah.
So the original company, our flagship is Simba Telecom. So you don't see Simba Telecom like shops because we run MTN shops. So we have about 30 physical shops across the country, and we do a lot of mobile money. We're responsible for about 40,000 mobile money agents. So we have systems where we're the ones giving the mobile money agents like the cash that they deal with on a day-to-day, balancing their phones, making sure that they're managing and moving and growing for MTN and MTN's goals, as well as like SIM cards, phones, mobile phone repair. Shout out to Nokia Service Center. If you have a Nokia phone and it ever breaks, you have free repairs in Uganda at the Nokia Service Center. You can send it, they fix it, they send it back, all free of charge. Nokia pays for everything. It's something our marketing team is going to talk about more. So that's telecom, and we're in different regions. So we work with MTN and with other dealers to make sure that Simba Telecom continues to run and grow. We have Protea Kololo, which is a hotel that's Marriott branded hotel, and Protea Skies. So those are hospitalities. We have Simba Properties, where we do office buildings, apartments, houses, some of them that we rent out and have tenants and things like that. We have White Nile, which does recycling for oil and gas companies. So like bioremediation, valorization for things like all the food that the Total staff don't eat and all the extra like metal parts and plastic bottles and wood bits. We have to collect them and process them and do something good for the environment with them. We have Uketa, which is the online learning platform. It's kind of like Coursera or Udemy. We're trying to make courses that are affordable and convenient for Ugandans. So all the coaches on the platform are Ugandans and they have like really good experience in our market, and they give you like step by step, this is what you need to do. You don't need to spend 3 years. You don't need to buy all these books. Go through this, learn from the course, you get a certificate. We have Ibanda University in Ibanda, which is one of the fastest growing universities. Every year we see how they're making progress. We have Ibanda Farms, Simba Farms. So there's 3 farms, I think, and we work with Mbarara University. I don't know, there's like a nice way to say it, but there's a lot about breeding and the semen, the quality and the heifers and the something. Farms are not my thing. I just see the reports. And there's a radio station in Ibanda as well, Iraka. Hardworking Women, which is a women's community where we support women and empower women through education, opportunities, knowledge, and events. We have monthly meetups, different dinners, virtual trainings. It's like a safe space for women to learn and grow, and like, because I always feel like I realized women don't really speak up or ask questions a lot at events, and sometimes you feel stupid asking stuff. So a lot of women used to DM me and be like, do you learn this? Or what does this mean? Or what about this? I was like, let's come together and grow together. And I think that has been really fun to grow. And so that's why I'm saying we have different chapters. So the Kampala events have monthly meetups at Motive. Then we have business dinners at Skies. In Barara, it's at Innovation Village. Ginger, we're doing it online, and Dubai is online. And you kind of get to meet other women and talk about things. They attend conferences together. We always have really cool partners where we have like URA will come and do a training, or like breast cancer screenings, or like, you know, different things that are valuable to women. And we also have vendors and a marketplace so that they can like sell and grow and get feedback. What have I forgotten? Project 500K. We have a partnership with MasterCard Foundation and PSFU where we train hospitality and tourism students. So you work in our hotels, our heads of department who are all Marriott certified teach you different skills, housekeeping, restaurant, different things like that. There's always a lot of different projects, if I'm honest. But those are the ones I think that keep me busy most of the time on a day to day. And then personally, I also sit on some boards. So I think I get a different experience as a board member because you're not in the operations. I sit on the board of StartHub, which I'm very proud of.
Yes, you should clap for that.
Very proud of them. It's been so cool to see them grow over the years. I think it's been, 6, 7 years since I met Matthias and Laura the first time. And you learn and you listen and you get to do so much more. I wish I could work in a company like StartHub if I had the time. That's what I would
There is a
choose to do.
spot. There is a spot.
Because you get to work with entrepreneurs and grow people and learn and see what's happening on the ground. And I kind of miss that. I feel like the more senior you grow, the less tangible stuff you do. You just manage people and it gets boring. I'm also on the board for Uganda Properties Limited, which is a government board. So that was interesting for me because it's the government board that manages the government's commercial properties in Uganda, Kenya, and the UK. So warehouses in Mombasa and understanding the market and visiting them and understanding what works, what doesn't work, the tenants, the structures. And government boards are so serious, the meetings and what, you can be called to parliament if you make a mistake. So I try to take it very seriously and always read my things. And government moves super slow. So I also think they're very lucky to have me because I'm go, 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 go on every project and idea. And then I also am the chair for Save the Children's Africa Board. And that's also been really interesting because I get to travel to different African countries and see the projects and the things that they do. Even here in Uganda, I went to Changwali refugee settlement a few months ago, and you get to have access to all these amazing people and companies and organizations and programs, and you see the impact that they're having. So that's also been interesting. And in that role, I kind of have to liaise between the UK office and the Africa offices. So I get to talk to them and see what their problems are, help them with fundraising. I get to go to the House of Lords in the UK and speak about how climate change is affecting girls in Africa. And we need the funding from the British government. So it's interesting because it keeps you in different circles and you get to learn from different areas and understand how different sectors work. And for me, I think that helps me across the board in everything I do.
Who was counting the companies? Because I still lost count again. How on earth do you juggle all that? Don't say teams. As a person, how do you juggle all that?
Systems.
But in your mind, at the end of the day, all this information is coming to you. Do you have moments of breakdown? Do you have, because I think I was listening to one of the stories when you're in a warehouse in Dubai, when you injured one of your bones. How often do you have such kind of things? Because that's a lot of work. People have one job here and every day they are crying on their statuses. You have all that, and I haven't really seen you cry about too much work.
I can't cry about it because even all the things I've said, now my dad is 10 times. He's on more boards, he's on committees, he's agreed to this person's help, this person, this business, this wedding, this, that. When I spend the day with him, I just come back exhausted. It's crazy. So for me, that's the level I know is possible. So what I'm doing, I don't even have to be at the office at 8. I come to the office at 10, 11. It's no stress for me now. I have time. I've built the system that works for me. But I think you kind of have to grow through it. You're overwhelmed, then you learn, you get a balance. As soon as you feel like you're on top of it, they throw you the next thing. And so you have to learn how you learn, because I always have to learn very quickly. They throw you in a meeting. You've never talked about telecom and strategic things. They throw me in an MTN meeting and I'm just okay, I have to answer these questions, download, read, understand, ask questions. I think that was helpful. Having good teams. I have to change my assistant every 18 months because they burn out. It's not an easy job. I commend them, but they really grow as well. After you've worked with me, you can do operations in any company. You'll be fine. You've not slept or had a life in the 18 months that you've worked with me. And you have to be really organized. Today I was filming some videos about apps that I use that keep me organized and productive. People who tell me that they don't use a calendar, I'm just hey mama, your life is so relaxing. That must be nice. I have to use a calendar. I have to put everything in my calendar or it can't exist because my brain can't hold all those things. So what I've learned is I follow people online who I can learn from. So like Ali Abdal, I really like on YouTube, and Tiago Forte, because they're like, our brains are not designed for the amount of information that passes through them these days. So instead of trying to remember everything, like we used to remember phone numbers. Now you never need to remember a phone number. So anything that I don't need to hold, I don't. It's written down. I have notes apps, folders, files, everything is organized, everything is digital. I just type in the search and it will come. I have an assistant. When am I supposed to be doing my nails? Because I don't know. She has to know. So anything that doesn't have to be in my mind, I cannot waste time trying to hold it. A phone number, a date. Should I be at Protea Skies or Protea Kololo for the meeting? Those are not my problems. It's in the calendar. I just have to go there. What my brain has to be spent doing is the deeper part, the creative part, the problem solving, the thinking, the assessment. So everything that I don't need to think of, I have to delegate to a person, to an app, to a notebook, to a system. I know I joke about like I never go to the supermarket. You have to just have a system at home or with a border guy, and he now knows what he needs to buy, what not to buy, which brand of this, which brand of that. You train someone once and you go through it. Manange, I lost my border guy last month. It was so sad. I'd had the same border guy for 10 years. Like, I always used to tell my mom, because she worries when I live alone, like, what if something happens to you? I'm like, my border will tell you if I'm dead. Because that's the person I would interact with the most. He brings me food. Wherever I am in the whole city, he's the one to find me because he'll bring me food, he'll bring me documents to sign, or I needed another pair of shoes. Like, we had a whole system going, you know? We had a good 10 years. Now he's moved on to something else. You have to support and be happy for him. He's
Anyone
grown.
who wants to volunteer as a border guy? It's a good one, trust me. Yeah?
It's
A lot
very
of
dynamic
learnings.
job. You need to be able to survive in a fast-paced environment. But like you build these systems around, because I think I have had good support, not just from my dad. I think in my 20s, I realized I have to learn from other people. Because my dad does things in his own way, and also it's not the only way. And also being a woman, there are things he can do that I can't, or that I have to think of that he didn't have to think of, like boots on a site. And so I started learning from other women. I always make sure I have a coach or a therapist. I'm doing a course. I'm learning so I can keep seeing how can I do more? Because I don't think this is all I'm supposed to do. So how can I increase my capacity? So like now, the chief of staff job 6 years ago and what it is now is completely different, because now I have teams, I have departments. There's so many things. I just have to filter to the right person. And because I'm like the public face, me and my dad, we get so much. Can you book my wedding at Skies? The food is too salty at PHK. I am at Elizabeth Apartments and the power has gone. Like there's so much stuff like that you get just because people think of you. So a lot of our work is to get you to the right person. I'm not going to go to the apartment and switch on the generator, please. But I know the person who's going to tell the person to go and do that. So you have to like have flow in the system so that things move faster and work and be organized. And then you have to be strict and be organized. I emphasize that so much because you can fit so much in a week if you're organized. The amount of things I do in a day, sometimes I'll tell someone, if I had your job, do you know what I would be able to do if that's all I had to do in a day? Do you know how many things I've done today? How many different things my mind has had to switch to? Different files, different companies, different sectors, assess. You can't make the same decision for each company. You have to look at each situation on its own. And to be able to switch like that really fast, I think that's where you build capacity with time. Before I would be in one company for a few months, then another company for a few months, and now I have to move through all of them every day. I've tried to do like one day here, one day there. The problems don't care about your system. So you have to build a system around that just takes in the problem and filters it in a way that executes it and handles it. And what I learned is you have to have nets so that you don't lose things. Things don't fall through the cracks. I really like WhatsApp. I know people don't encourage WhatsApp in the workplace, but me, I like WhatsApp because it's written down. Who approved it? Who said it? How much was it? It's there. You search it. You told me at 12 o'clock to pay this person. Even me, sometimes I'm like, who approved this? They're like, you, madam. And I'm like, okay, let's go with it. So you have to build systems and know your own weaknesses and build around them. Me, I have a big problem with time. So I always have to have an assistant who's super organized, but also super friendly, because a lot of their job is going to be reaching before me and saying, so sorry, she's on her way, but don't be angry. So she has to like engage.
I actually talked to Belinda before.
Yeah, you see, wasn't she nice?
She was.
So that's something I had to learn because I'm always pulled in so many different directions and I'm trying to tell this person I really need to go, but they're trying to tell me something and I don't want to cut you off. So you like learn your weaknesses and your things that are particular, but also I think you need a level of humility where you realize you don't have to do everything yourself. And I think many entrepreneurs struggle with that, especially when it's like your company and you care and you love it and you want it to be exactly like this because you have the vision. hold on to the vision, but let things, the how is not always up to you. God is there, the team is there, people will help you. And having the ability to let that go, I think is the only way you increase your capacity. I can't be in 10 places at the same time. So I have to be able to assess which one needs me as me and which one can I send this person or this manager or this team member, and they will handle it and they will grow and they will do it in a way that I'm proud of. And learning that has really helped me to also increase my capacity for the things that I can do.
I think from today, I'm not complaining about my job anymore, yeah? Because now I understand how much you do. But I've never complained, though. So another quick question on that. Were there particular times, because I really want to bring out, again, the human aspect. The child aspect failed, so the human aspect. Were there times that you actually got burnout and you really couldn't do it anymore because your work is a load? Trust me, it is a lot. Even for an average person, I think they would just run mad because that's a lot of work. But were there particular times, and probably you could tell us some of those stories, because I've tried to listen to some of them, but maybe the audience would really be super interested in knowing that you are also having a human side, that you get burnout, and probably what do you do when those moments come?
Okay. I feel like it's always hard for me to recount these things because I'm a very, okay, the thing happened, how do we move forward? That's how I think. I don't like to dwell. So when I have to remember like the worst times, it's like, find that file. But there's definitely burnout. One is physical burnout. So for me, I would always prioritize work above everything. So I remember getting ulcers because I would forget to eat the whole day. You'll be on your feet working 16 hours in a hotel, this, that, and you've just not eaten. And I remember at like 2 a.m., I was going home and I was talking to my brother on the phone and I was like, man, something is wrong. He's like, go to the doctor. I'm like, when, nigga? He's like, go now. So I went to the doctor at like 2 a.m., do all these tests and what. They're like, oh, you have ulcers. I'm like, from what? You know? But there are small things you do that you don't notice, like breaking my hip. I fell in the warehouse, but it's me. I'm like, I'll be fine. Some Panadol, let's keep going. That hip was broken for 3 months and I didn't know it was broken. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't check on it. It was just getting worse and worse. I'm upping the painkillers. I got to the point where I was like, I couldn't sit like for more than an hour at a time. So I have to keep standing up, put my laptop on like a bookshelf so I can be doing what I'm doing while I stand, until I had to go to America for a conference. And just with the flight times and what, my sister lived in LA. So my mom's like, fly to LA so you spend the weekend with her, then you go for the conference on Sunday. And when I was there, they're like, just go get it checked out. You're limping. But me, I was so used to the limping at this point, I wasn't even noticing. And that's when the doctor's like, your hip is broken. You need crutches right now. And we have to do surgery tomorrow. And I was like, sir, I have things to do this week. Can I come back next week? And he's like, absolutely not. And what was crazy for me with that, he could see in the x-ray, there's something like in the bone density you can see. He's like, I can see this has been broken for months and it's trying to heal and it's not healing. And I was like, oh, you can see that? Yeah, it's been broken for like a few months, I guess. It's been a few months since I fell. He's like, that means there's too much cortisol in your blood. Are you stressed? Do you have a high stress job? I was like, kind of. Because I can never explain my job. So when people ask me what do you do, I'm like, I work in a hotel. That's all I say. And he's like, okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to have surgery and then you're not going to work for 2 months. I was like, what? No work. You need to reduce the stress in your system because your blood is literally thinking you're under attack every day. It can't take the time to focus and repair, which your body needs. And I thought he was totally mad and I was very upset about it. And my mom convinced me and she's like, I'm going to come. We're going to do the surgery while you're there. You're going to not work for 2 months. And I was just like, okay, but I know myself. As soon as the drugs wear off, you get your phone, you'll be fine. And the week after my surgery is when COVID happened. And I was so happy. I was like, if I don't have to work, no one is working. Let's all be at home for 2 months. So it worked out so great for me. Of course, it took much longer than 2 months. It was a big learning. And that's when I had to reflect and ask myself, am I working too much? I have no hobbies, those kinds of things while on bed rest. But I think the physical side, since then, I take so much more seriously with my wellness and health. I read a lot more. I learned a lot more. I spend more time with like gym trainers, nutritionists, supplements, water, sleep, different things. I do what I can because even medical professionals tell you the best thing to do is have a healthier lifestyle because then you're just preventing all these medical problems. So that one I think is much more, it's easier to solve. It's tangible. You can weigh yourself. You can do blood tests. You can see results, right? So those are the kinds of things I do now to check, is my vitamin D too low? Is the cortisol too high? Then there are like the softer things where you have to learn to meditate or to unwind or to relax or to not reply emails at 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? Those ones are harder because you have to, now it's willpower and building new habits and trusting people and not panicking when it's not done. Takes time. But also with like burnout, I used to burn out and I would realize it and I would take some time. So I remember one New Year's, I think the hotel was 1 or 2 years old. I physically couldn't move. Like the New Year's night, I had worked the whole night. My back was on fire. I was exhausted. The next day I told my dad, I've discovered this thing called burnout. I sent him an article. I need to take 3 months to like recover my body and my mind and my spirit. It's been too much. He's like, oh, okay, you first rest for 3-4 days, then we discuss. It's like, fine. I stayed at home for 3 days. And then I talked to him again. I'm like, at least give me 2 weeks where, you know, I don't have the pressure. So I started to realize, for me, why I think there's cortisol in my system, I was needed too much. Anytime there's always people looking for me, they need me for something. And that is like a level of pressure. Like, you know, when you have unclosed tabs of things that are not finished, that's just open and pending and like looming over you. Like you're in bed and you're remembering, oh, this meeting tomorrow, oh, this person, oh, this thing. So I had to learn to delegate, give people the power to do the thing. Okay, you try. If it doesn't work tomorrow, I'll help you. And like also not get out in the bed in the night and be like sending messages and emails. Like write it down on a book so that you don't forget, as if you could forget, but you feel better when you write it. And then sleep, you know, like proper sleep. Don't keep waking up. I forgot about this. I need to do this. I need to prep this, which is what I was like. So I think the emotional journey is much more difficult. The physical stuff, I've improved a lot. I think so. I rest better. I unplug more. But the emotional part is really, really hard because there's always something going on. There's always more you feel you could be doing. But I also now know the cost of it. And if I'm sick or if I'm incapable of working or I've lost the will to live and I can't move for 3 days, it's worse because that thing that was stressing me that I could have solved, now for 3-4 days or 2 weeks or 2 months, I can't do anything. That was a big shift. Even before like COVID, I had to think, who is going to do all the things I do? There's no one I had trained. My siblings weren't working in the businesses yet. There's no one I can't delegate to my dad. Like I was handling this, now you handle it. But like at that moment, that's what we had to do. So I think feeling the cost of it now makes me care about it earlier. And even with physical stuff, noticing the small signs, work on it before it gets so bad. It's like do the preventative healthcare things before you're in hospital and now you have a big hospital bill. Rather than, you know, you were paying gym membership. It's cheaper than a hospital bill. Just get up and go. So I think that's what like I've learned to deal with. And also emotionally learning to breathe. I have a tattoo that says breathe because I think the things that have helped me the most is breathing and water. Once I started drinking more than 3 liters of water a day, my body just has more energy. I'm able to handle things better. I swear it helped so much. And learning to breathe because things get intense. People's emotions, the pressure, the deadlines, the what, you don't realize you're not really breathing. You're having like small, shallow breaths the whole day. So your body is not replenishing. There's not enough oxygen in your brain. You're not calm. That's why your body thinks it's under attack and now there's cortisol in your blood. So I set alarms on my phone and I have to remember to breathe. Every time I switch on a light, or every time I get in the car, open a door, small like triggers, take a deep breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Till I now learned that and then I now know how to do it as the day goes. And when you research breathing, there's so many different ways to breathe. Breath work is an entire like field. In like you can get certified in it. There's meditations, there's different types, there's different effects, there's different sounds.
You can get certified in breathing.
In breath work.
Nice.
You can be a breath work coach.
Guys, why are you unemployed, Dave?
But that's how complex it is. And now the good thing is there's science to back up everything. So you can measure these things, you can see these things, and you can try it on yourself and learn the kind of breathing to calm down, the kind of breathing to de-stress, to clear your mind. And for me, it always just felt like spinning. From the moment I'm awake, the whole day is till I'm in bed. Then it's like, but that's not a healthy way to live. So now I have to remember to pause in between things. Between meetings, I'll do like 10 back-to-back meetings. And in between, the person is walking out, the next person's going in. Or sometimes I will leave the rooms. It's easier. Great, thank you, see you, move to the next room. Do this meeting, move to the next room. But in that, you don't even like close the file on that thing. So now I know in between, I have to take a deep breath and I have to remember, okay, the action points of this thing, who is handling that? Done. Okay, next breath, change gear. What is the next thing? And small things like that make a big difference in how you're able to handle so much without getting to the point of burnout.
Great. I think that was more or less like consultancy. Yeah, we've learned a lot on how to manage stress. But now shifting to the part of social entrepreneurship, I do understand your master's in social entrepreneurship. Your honorary PhD is in innovation. Most of the companies that you've started, apart from the companies that your dad started, are more into social entrepreneurship. What is the background? What was the motivation to take that route for you?
For me, I started to look at it as how can you make more of an impact? I think the science behind business has been tried and tested. Business has existed for hundreds of years. It's a simple calculation. It's how you make profit. So when I went to school, what we learned, it's not just about profit. It's about profit, planet, purpose. So you don't want to make a negative impact on the climate is one thing, which I don't think we take seriously enough here in Africa. And then the purpose of what you're doing. So I remember one of the stories I liked was about this bakery in San Francisco, and they only employ ex-convicts. Because, in America, the Black Americans are all in prison, and like it's so hard for them to get jobs. They have a lot of politics around it. So this guy is like, I'm going to create an opportunity. Because when you're an ex-con, it's so hard to get a job. So he said, I want to say it properly. He started the bakery because he wanted a reason to employ the ex-convicts. It's not that he's passionate about baking or cookies. So he's like, we don't hire ex-cons to make cookies. We make cookies to hire ex-cons. And I like the way that he put it because he put what was important first. So I understand money is important. I've seen how charities work and running them and CSR. And the truth is, when you're in that situation, you're always fundraising. Your strings are being pulled by someone else. It's one of the things we're trying to do with Save the Children by locally fundraising, because when you get money from Europe, they tell you specifically it is for this, this, and this, and the M&A is a nightmare. They don't understand the nuances. You don't have the budgets to do what you need to do on the go. So it's a very rigid system. And most NGOs and foundations are like that. You're constantly fundraising. It's a lot of work, and everything is like specific to what the donors have decided is best for you. And that's the attitude I don't like for Africa. Other people should not be telling us what's best for us. We can have African solutions to African problems, and we have what it takes here to handle those things. The problem is the money. So I do think social entrepreneurship makes more sense because you do need to make money. Your things need to stand on their own. And I tell this to my teams now, even in Yuketa and in Her, I didn't start those companies to make money. I wanted the impact. That's why we started doing it. But the company has to make money. Otherwise, you can't run. I'm not going to spend my life fundraising and jumping through donors' hoops. So it's important that you charge for things. And also, when you research this stuff, people value things that they pay for. When you do these programs where you give out free cows in the village, you come back in a year, who still has that cow? And I'd seen it in the field. So I don't want to say 10 years ago, maybe like 8 years ago, we did an NGO program in Ibanda district. We did Project 500K, and we were doing mindset change and youth and leadership and skills. That's one of the first times I noticed that women don't speak up. But on the first day, I think we advertised everything, and they were called boot camps. Mindset boot camp in Teka something. And so everyone shows up for the boot camp, and I'm really happy. There's like a big turnout. We spent all this money on radio adverts, and all the people are like, where's the money? And I was like, no, it said mindset. We're here to teach you. Where is the money? What money? We showed up, you give us money. And I was really not understanding. And okay, the truth is, half of our team was white, so they also didn't know. And I think that made it the problem worse, because in the village, when you show up with a white person, they think it's money. And then we had used the word boot camp. And so they're like, when GIZ, USAID tells us boot camp, we come, we sign, they give us money, they talk their things, we go. I was like, okay, we have a problem here. And I remember reading a study when I was in school. Uganda can embarrass us. So there was like a district in Uganda that has been on World Food Program's list for donation since the 70s. Like every single week they give out wheat in sacks to this district. And I was like, what? And I remember being in class and everyone's like, oh, that's your country? And I'm just like, that can't be accurate. But it's true. And like even now, I remember last year, World Food Program and UNHCR and these companies are reassessing, and now they have a tier system. How needy is the community? Because it's not sustainable to just give out the food. And I think when they started, they must have thought, we'll give them food, then they'll start working, then they won't need the food. And now 40 years later, they're still giving out food to these people. And it's because you mess up people's mindsets. They just get used to handouts and receiving. So the people in this community just, we line up, we get food. That's life. So now even dealing with these youths in Ibanda, I was like, okay, we have got to break this. We're not going to pay you firstly, not even for your goddamn transport. We're helping you. And so now you're arguing with these people who you've come to supposedly help. So I started to see a lot of problems in charity and donations and foundations and the way that they are run. There's a lot of issues of, oh, the UN cars all have to be so nice and they live in fancy houses and fancy offices because of their safety and security, but that's where the money goes. Or like, how do you really track what's happening with the money? And these are the kinds of discussions I used to have at school, which is why I really appreciated my program. Because we had a lot of people from like Colombia or from like Ghana or Sierra Leone who understand like poverty. And then you have all these people from like Europe and America who like make the decisions but have never understood. And me, I feel like I'm a bit in the middle. It's not that I've been in the poverty. I've been around the poverty, so I can understand some of things in a different way. But also I understand like governance and systems and the importance of the M&E and the accountability and stuff. So I think for me, it was more of an exploration. I had to find a middle ground that sits well with me for my own conscience. You know, you can employ thousands of people and you pay them very little. Is that really the right thing to do? If you can afford to do better or do more. And then entrepreneurs will say, but I can't afford to do more. I also have bills to pay. I have URA. I have na. Then why did you start that business? Like, do things well, do things properly, do something that you're proud of, rather than, I just need to make money. Yes, you need to make money, but it doesn't mean at whatever cost. Then go and be a thief. You know, go be a drug dealer. If that's the only goal, do it. But I think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, take into account all the stakeholders. Your customers are not your only stakeholders because they're the ones paying you. Think of your staff, think of your office, the neighborhood, your community, the people who work with you, the licenses you have to get, the government entities, the kids of the people who work with you or your customers, the impact you're going to have. Are you going to sell a product that you wouldn't give your own children? You know? So there are so many things now that I consider, and that's how I see business now. Because now me, I can't untangle the two. I like see it all together, and it's something that I try to enforce and encourage in everything that we do. And that's a different aspect, because when my dad started our companies, it was about money. He literally had his siblings' school fees to pay and his own like food to put on his table. That's something I've never had to do. So I can understand where it comes from, but I think we can do better. We can learn more. We have more access to information and support and different things. So you can do better from the beginning. So now with the companies that I get to control from day one, there are things I just say no. I remember fighting with the girls in Her. They're like, men have more income. They'll buy more things. Let them come for the meetups. I'm like, absolutely not. Did we start the company for men? We want to change the whole vision and value because you're chasing money? No, men are not allowed to come to the meetup.
Even just for buying?
Nothing. I would rather we all suffer there broke together as women. That's the point.
We shall send the women with the money.
Exactly. You see, you found a solution. That's what happens. There are certain lines you can't cross. I had to start Uketa because the men were complaining that everything was for the women, for the women, for the women. Education, have at it. Let the men buy the courses too. We refilmed everything. We rebranded everything. Now we include men in that. I'm happy to share it. But I think at the same time today, they were like, we need to increase the price of the public speaking course because it's the most popular course. I'm like, you guys, yeah, madam, we'll make more money. I'm like, it's not just about the money. We started the company so that the courses are affordable and accessible to so many more people. If you increase the price just because you're chasing money, you're going to reduce your customers and the people that can afford it. So the answer is no. But you make those decisions from a privileged position because the company is already making money. So I can understand the challenge and walking that line. And I think every entrepreneur has to find that balance for themselves. Because there's nothing like knowing you're not going to sleep at night because you know you did the wrong thing at that day. You shouldn't have done that. It's unethical. There's going to be consequences. And it's something that I learned, okay, maybe also in a selfish way. You don't want people to talk bad things about you, right? You don't want to have a bad reputation. Or people would say, man, that company, all their products are poison. Your kids will be sick. You're going to get this. Or everything is bad quality. They tell you this, they lie to you. And then this is the product that you get. You know how they joke about those Chinese companies online? Like the clothes look like this on the website, but when it reaches, it's terrible. So I don't want that. I also don't want someone to say, oh, I went to Skies. They charged me 40K for samosas and the samosas were disgusting. If I'm going to charge you 40K for samosas, they better be the best samosas you ever had.
Are they 40K?
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. You have to back it up.
It's okay.
So you have to have your ethics in the thing. They have to be 40K, man. That's that they've decided as a menu with the clientele. There's like a whole process behind it. But then I'm like, they better be good samosas.
How many samosas?
Get two.
Two. Okay.
With some sweet chili sauce. They're good samosas. But that's what I mean. You have to find that balance for yourself as the person who gets to direct the ship, because there will be mistakes, there will be hard days, and you always have to know your why and your vision and what you can live with. Me, that's what I don't want. I don't want to reach a point where I am ashamed of who I am or I can't tell someone what happened. I remember we made one really bad decision at Skies in our chaos. It's kind of technical, but like the fire escapes we have, we had built spiral fire escapes. And when we were building Skies is the time when Marriott bought Protea. Marriott's an American company. Protea was a South African company. So as we were building to the South African specs of what the hotel has to be, and in the chaos, I remember someone talking about the staircases, the fire escapes cannot be spiral, it's not safe. And someone else was like, no, it's fine, whatever, cut corners, it's cheaper. And we said, let's go with it. And then we failed the Marriott inspection, because you cannot have round fire escapes in America. But America, to be fair, they build everything out of wood. So like buildings catch fire and people die. In Africa, everything is cement. It literally can't burn down like that. But you have to follow American standards now that we were Marriott. But now we had already built them. We had already hired people. We had already started running the hotel. This is why Skies had like, I think it was 8 months where it was not branded Marriott Protea. It was branded Skies. Because we were now in this fight with the teams all over the world. Like, let us run the hotel. They're like, absolutely not. Because if anyone dies, Marriott is going to have to pay because of the fire. So now we had to dismantle them and rebuild them. And fire escapes are hella expensive. So now we're not getting the support from Marriott. We're not on their website. We're not using their software. We're not getting their travelers. So the occupancy in the hotel is too low. We have already hired full staff who have nothing to do all day because there's no customers. And at the same time, we're now back in a construction site, removing the fire escapes and trying to pay to rebuild them. We had to fire like 100 people. I think that was like, it's definitely one of the worst days of my career ever. These are people you've hired, you've trained, they have all these promises, these dreams, you've seen pictures of their kids, you know them, you say hi to them every day, and now we had to fire 100 people in one day. And I was like, okay, we have to do it. It was a difficult process, but for me, the learning is never make a mistake like that again. Because you're not just dealing with yourself, you're dealing with other people, with their lives. I remember the pastry chefs were from Kenya. They've moved their whole life, their family, the work permits, the what. I was just like, this is a disaster. A disaster. How do you look in someone's eyes and tell them you've signed a 1-year contract, you've worked for 2 months, I don't know when I'll be able to hire you again. So those are the things that really haunt me. And those are the things I lose sleep about. And I hate those kinds of days. And as an entrepreneur, there will be days like that where things are tough, or you don't know what to do, or you made a mistake, or you have to make a tough call, and you have to keep the company alive, because it was either fire the 100 or you're going to lose everything within another 6 months. So you make those decisions, but that's the learning for me. You also have to know you did the right thing and you did what you could. So like even during COVID, the hotels are closed, but our staff have no other source of income. We were not prepared for COVID. No one was. But now we have to figure out, what do we do so that everyone is somehow okay until things change and things get back. But that's why I think your values in the business are really important. And I think coming from a family business, that's how we are. And we have the luxury of doing that because we can make the decisions as a family, what we can and can't do. And we're the ones making the policies. And I think like big international companies, you don't have a choice. They have policies, briefings, budgets, ranges, like that's that. So it's an advantage that we have, but it's also hard because it's you who has to make those decisions. Whenever I talk about like the values in a business, I like the example of Javas. When people start restaurants, they're like, we have to sell alcohol because Ugandans like alcohol. Javas is like, us, we're Muslims. We're not selling alcohol. We're not serving pork. You'll be fine. And isn't Javas doing great?
And we are fine.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like you have to stick to your principles and not just jump where the money is because it looks like easy money. Because you have to think of the longevity of it and what you can live with, you know? And that's what helps you to sleep at night. Because if you have all that money, but you have all these ghosts haunting you, you won't be able to sleep at night and it will bother you. And I think it's a hard thing to say, especially when you need the money, but it's something I think to just bear in mind a bit as an entrepreneur.
Okay. I think the people need to ask questions, and since we have another engagement, I'll ask the last question, which is on building hardworking women and what the motivation was. I think throughout your story, you've been talking about women, and I really want you to expound on that, what the motivation was to really choose women and how you've really structured hardworking women, and is it actually making money or are you just giving back to society? But also other enterprises that you've tried to start with a background of social entrepreneurship. How long has it taken for them to actually make money? Because the mindset that we have is that when you're trying to do social entrepreneurship, the break-even period extends a bit, yeah? So how has it been for you, or do you have actually a different notion compared to what is on ground?
Okay, let me work backwards. I don't think it takes longer as a social entrepreneur. I think when you have your values and your standards, it's going to take that long. Either it's going to take that long or it's not worth doing. That's how I see it now. So I don't think, oh, let's cut back on the impact, we'll make money faster. I've never even tried to do that calculation. This is how we're going to do it the right way, and this is what it's going to cost, and this is what it's going to take. That's that. And then you learn as you go. So that's the line I take because there are things now I've learned that I just won't compromise on with time. With her, I never thought I'd work with women, and if it's very weird to me because I kind of grew up as a tomboy with brothers around my dad, and most of the working environments I was in for like the first 10 years was only men. I was literally the only woman all the time. So you kind of get used to it and get used to talking to men and hanging out with them and having the habits and sounding like them and being like them and dressing like them. And I didn't realize. And then I did an interview for a magazine, and I had never done an interview before. But the woman was like, women need inspiration. I'm like, I'm not inspiring, dear. And she's like, one day someone will read about you and it will make them realize they can do that too. And I was like, okay, that I can understand. Because I had the privilege of my dad letting me know I can do anything. I didn't grow up being told you're a girl, you can't do these things. My mom tried with household things, but I was like, if I'm going to learn to clean, the boys are going to learn. If I'm going to learn to cook, they're going to do it. We all do it together or I won't do it. It was contentious in our house, but that's how we were. So I think I never expected to be in a space where I was thinking of women first. But the more I spent time in the working world and realized I was surrounded by men, and then you're treated differently, that one really shocked me. I think the first few times, what do you mean you think I'm not as smart because I'm a girl? Like, it had never occurred to me in my life, and I had never been exposed to someone treating me like I'm less because I'm a girl. Like, that was so wild as a notion. So the first few times it happened, I was just like, surely it can't be that. But I always equate it now to like racism, like the way some people think of black people compared to white people. I'm just like, that's so mad. But that's what it feels like now as a woman, and I was starting to understand that. And then experiencing it in the field, that's when I started to realize my privilege, not just as a woman, because most women would not get the opportunities I've had or be allowed to be in those places I've been or have the confidence to speak in the places I get to speak in, but because my dad always encouraged me. And I realized so many women have these gaps, and it's mostly in confidence. And that's the truth. Even now with her, women are so smart, so capable. It's a confidence issue at the beginning. That's the whole first thing that you have to get past. So the more I started doing stuff publicly, like interviews and DMs, her became like a WhatsApp group, because now I was getting all these questions and then follow-up questions and then this and this. And then I was like, okay, let's put them in a WhatsApp group, and once a day I'll answer everyone's questions. And it became like a fun community, and we talk about things and have discussions. And then the group grew to like, I think at the time the limit was 100 in WhatsApp. So then there was 2 groups, then there was 3 groups. And now I'm like, I can't answer all these questions. I literally don't have the time. And then I was like, okay, let's do physical events, like one Saturday a month. Let all the women, if you have time, come. I'll answer any questions you want. Just because I wanted to be a resource, because I've had resources. My dad has never told me, shut up, don't ask me that. You shouldn't know those things. Anything I'd ask, he'd always find a way to explain to me. And also, I've had great teachers, mentors, and I'm a very curious person. If anything, I ask so many questions, still people are tired of me. So I've always had the privilege of being able to ask questions and someone is going to help me to understand. So that's what I wanted to give back to women. Like, I don't know how to change your life. I don't know how to fund your business, but if you have a question and I have an answer, I'll give it to you. So that's how it started. And then in COVID, we couldn't do the physical meetups anymore. So I think around like May, that's when I was a bit better. We started doing online. So now we moved to a Facebook group because you could put more people in a Facebook group than a WhatsApp group. And then within like 3 months, we went from like 300 women to like 5,000 because I think everyone was just at home and had time in Facebook and in COVID. So then we started doing online stuff. Then I started filming courses online and telling them, watch this video, then this video, then this video, then we can talk about it like together. Which is where I also started doing the online courses. And then when I came back, I was like, okay, now we can resume physical stuff. But now there's so many women. I have a job. It was a lot. So I got a volunteer. Some of the women in the groups were always like, if you ever need help, let us know. I was like, perfect, help me. Come, organize these ladies, get the phone numbers, manage the time. I will show up on the day, I'll do a PowerPoint or something, I'll answer questions. And that's just how it started. And it grew from volunteers to more meetups, to our events, to social media calendars. We still have a lot of volunteers. Now we have a volunteer program. I think we take 6 volunteers for 6 months, something like that. And then there's a full-time team now that runs it. And so a full-time team also requires salaries. They all need money. They need transport, lunch. They go to other events. They have social media. They need t-shirts. There's always something. So we also started charging for women to attend the events and also for vendors to vend at the events. So there's different charges. And also you value things when you pay for them. So it's another way to make it work. And now we also have sponsors because so many companies want access to women as consumers. So we'll let you sponsor an event and then you'll give you like 10 or 15 minutes to pitch your product or your company. I think last month we had Prudential Insurance at the dinner that sponsored. We have so many different sponsors. It's wild, like a hospital, a clothes company, a law firm. And they always want to like just engage with the ladies, and it's good opportunities for the ladies. So what I like her to be is as a woman who wants to earn money. That's the only criteria, because I feel like when women earn money, they have agency. You get to be able to make your own decisions, and that's what I want for all women. You know, have the capacity and the capability to make the decisions in what you want to do in life. So we have different types of sponsors who will do pitches, they'll give discounts, they'll bring free products. I think this month we have, I don't want to say the name wrong, Tooms. There's like a snack company. The woman is like the CEO. She's like, I'm going to bring free snacks for everyone. So like fun stuff like that. And also, women's needs are different. And once you start to notice it, you know how like people are sensitive to race? Once you start to notice race things, you start to see it everywhere. So me now, I notice every small thing that is designed for men that's not designed for women. The size of my phone, when people have like cobblestones and are not good for women's shoes, or stuff that I can't press because of my nails. Like small things irritate me. But also big things like financial products are not designed for women. Or like the way companies work, this 9-to-5 system we all are suffering in is not designed for women. It was designed for a white man who has a wife at home looking after his life. And now all of us around the world are used to that system. So I think there's so many things that are not designed for women in mind. And now we have enough women in the workplace, in boards, engineers, building things, designing things. Oh my God, I love women's products where they're like, a man was designing this and now a woman is designing it, and it's much more comfortable, it's more practical. Like there's so many things that it's fair. Men were making things for themselves, but now we are all in the world, so we need women making things for women, like how we need Africans making things for Africans. So I think women still need a lot of support, and I do see the problem now. Before, when people are like, the boy child, I would roll my eyes and be like, yeah, you guys had 2,000 years, you'll be fine. But now I'm starting to see the consequences, because in the last 30 years, women's empowerment and the feminist movement has dramatically transformed every society in the world, right? Because women are working, everything has shifted, and there's gaps now that no one has filled. And I read, I think, an Economist article where they were saying, no one thought it would happen so fast is the problem. In one generation, the world is completely different. Like the life my grandma lived and the life I live and the life my daughter lives, it's wildly different. And so I think there are many shifts that have to happen in society that help and support men. It's not fair to say the boy child, the boy child. The truth is we need to teach boys and girls the same. If we treated them the same, we wouldn't leave one behind. Because now men think we're leaving the boys behind, and it's already starting to show in like education records and habits and prison records, crime, behavior. Like you're already starting to see the consequences. I think you have to treat them equally and give them the same opportunities. But also, society has shifted, and the biggest losers, I feel, are the men of our generation. Because us as women, life has become better. As we can make decisions, we can have money, we can work, we can do what we want. But there's a big gap of all the things women used to do for men that men have not yet realized how to fill. And I think that's a negative consequence we were not ready for, and it's not yet being addressed effectively.
Like warming food. Yeah, it's a recent conversation. Warming food is a big
goddamn microwave. I saw that on my Twitter.
We are buying microwaves these days, yeah?
Yeah. If we learned how to cook and now we've learned how to work in an office, surely you who learned how to work in the office can learn how to make your own food. Fair.
Or we can buy samosas of 40K.
I think there's a lot of things that have to change in that aspect. But also, me, I know I can't fix everything and do everything. So now, for now, I'm able to support women with my experience and understanding where I can support men. But also, the problem is men don't like listen to women. That one I still find is a problem. So it's not me to help the men. Me, I tell the other men, help your friends. Last month was Men's Mental Health Awareness. I posted things. I told people, check on the men in your life because men are not doing well. And men need other men to learn from. And I think the gap we have is the generation before can't help us. My dad can't give my brothers advice on dating because it's a different world that they are living in. The tips and tricks he used cannot work with women of today. So there's a gap there in the mentorship, in the path and what's expected, and in the skill set that men need to have now. You do need to know how to make your own food, guys. Otherwise, it's you who's going to be hungry, not us. So I feel like that's the shift that has to happen. And instead of complaining about it, men also need to come together and be like, okay, what are we going to do? Instead of having an Andrew Tate type of tantrum. Because women are not going backwards. That's what I'm sure.
That's for sure, yeah. So this is the moment where we give you an opportunity to ask a question. Should we take all the questions at once or one at a time? Batches. 3 at a time. Okay, cool.
I think you talked about systems and how they have helped your family. Me working in a consultancy, I think that's what we deal with family businesses. So I really applaud you for that. But for small businesses like mine and some of the people in this room, how do you then create systems? For example, I have a catering business, so I do everything. I wake up, cook, make the samosas, make the food, like. So how do you then advise a small business to start creating systems such that by the time I grow, there are things that are working that don't need me as a person? Yeah, to thrive. Thank you so much.
My question is, how can we, as a startup, balance the need for financial stability while still driving towards the goal for social impact? Because I know we want to give back, but then at the same time, we need to make money as a startup, especially. So how do we balance that too? Thank you.
My question is in line with customer service. I have worked in customer service for 6 months, and I would like to get, in your experience, how would you solution a customer who is demanding unlogical solutions? Like in situations when you, as a customer service advisor, your hands are tied, but the customer needs a solution at that exact point. Thank you.
Okay, let me answer these 3 as we go to the next. Firstly, catering systems. You said the answer, you know. You have to make a system that works when you're not there. So what I would suggest as you do it now is keep track of everything you're already doing and notice the things that are key. Make, even if it's like a checklist. Okay, I got an order. What's the first thing you do? I book the date, I go shopping, I chop the tomatoes, It sounds simple, but you have to think about, if you grow, you need to be able to give those instructions to someone and they need to be able to execute them to the way that you are happy with. That's how you start to build a system. Then you start to notice repeat patterns. Where do I get the most business? What are the most repeated requests? What works best for me? What are the dishes that get the best feedback? Then you start to build a pipeline for those things, so you increase those things. I get the best feedback when I do baptisms and they eat potatoes. You know what I mean? So now you start to notice that. So now you think, how do I get more baptisms? How do I make sure that I'm serving these potatoes and I'm doing it in the best way that I can? And I always tell people, write down everything. Right now, you're taking it for granted because it's in your head. The day you're sick or you have 3 events on the same day, how are you going to manage? You need to be able to have a system for someone, a checklist, a process. In our hotels, we call them SOPs. I think everyone learned SOPs in COVID. Standard operating procedures. That's what protects you. So that if anything goes wrong, if you're not there, if they don't know what to do, SOPs, the system is there. That's how it goes. Anything that you can automate or delegate or get something to do for you, use the AI, super handy, and see how to make it better. Because the whole point of a system is it doesn't need you. I say it's hard even to say you're a business when it's just you. You're a caterer. Do you have a catering business? It's up for debate. You know what I mean? Till you build the system, you have another person in the system, you know what to do, you have a procedure, and it works. A system means something is going in, it's going through everything, and it's coming out. So it's successful, and it's working, and it's moving. Telemedicine. So I do understand it's hard with social impact. So what I would say is look at your MVP, right? Like your minimum viable product. What are you trying to achieve? Like at the bare way, not with all the frills, not the extended luxurious with everything it can. If you're doing techno stuff, like the most basic app, it works. It's not the prettiest, it's not the most functional, but it works, right? Get to that stage, then get stable. Once you've done that a few months, like I have enough customers, things are stable, it's stable, now I can add something. You want to succeed. Set yourself up for success. You try to do too many things at once, you're going to fall to pieces. You don't want to be stressed. I don't know how I'm going to pay this. I don't know how I'm going to do that. They've switched off the app. There's now this. You don't want to be in that situation. So you'd rather grow slowly but steadily, because then you will make it the long haul. Because it's not 1 year, your journey. It's 10, 15 years. That's the truth. So think about it that way. When you try to go do things too fast, you crash, you burn out, you give up. It's part of the process in startups, but we don't want you to do that. So that's what I would say. Try and I know you can have the vision of what it could be, and that's exciting, and I want you to hold that vision and never forget it, but also know it will take time to get there. It's okay to start with this version, the next version, the next version. When I think about how her started as an app in a WhatsApp and the first meetup, and there was no branding and no organization, I had never facilitated anything. And when I see it now, I don't even have to be there. That's why there are so many chapters. There's a team, a system, a what, it works. And it takes time to get there. And that's the process, and that's part of the process that people don't see. You're seeing other people's final product. You don't know what their first iteration was like. You don't know how ugly or how bare or how useless it was. It just did the basic thing, the most bare thing, the core part of your company. That's the most important part. As long as you deliver that, get stable, you will keep growing. Customer service. You know, with customer service, what I found, maybe don't quote me on this, customers are a nightmare, is the truth. Because every customer feels like they're your boss because they're paying you. And it's the truth, they're your boss. The customer is always right, but customers can be crazy. What it is with customers is how you make them feel. A lot of the time, it's not about the logic, it's not about the money. By the time they're complaining, they're just frustrated and angry with you. They're disappointed. So you're dealing with an emotion, not with logic. So now you're trying to fight with logic, someone who's fighting with emotion. There are customers who are just upset. No matter what solution you give them, they're going to still be upset. They just want to feel special or something has happened. It's like when you give discounts. People are happy when they get a discount. They don't need to know that that was already the price. As long as they feel they're getting something special, they feel happier. So with customers, I always say, just keep the customer happy. Use whatever you have to do. Small lies. Oh, sir, my manager is not here. I really understand what you're going through. You know what? Let me fight for it. It's against our policy, but I have to help you. It's such a terrible situation. I'm so sorry. Let me call you tomorrow after I've got approval. Let the person cool down and come back and say, oh, we've given you a free this instead of what they were asking for. As long as you give them something, they will feel happier. Most of the time, people just want to feel heard and seen, like you've taken care of them. By the time a customer has come to you to argue, they've taken time out of their day because they want you to listen to their frustration. So you have to agree with them, Do not argue with them. Don't tell them they're wrong or they're stupid or they're logical. You're never going to do that because it's crazy. Even if they are, stay calm and stay positive. Soothe like a child. You know, when a child is having a tantrum, you're not going to shout at the child and say you're being illogical. Be like, sorry, baby. Okay, it's going to be okay. Let's get a lollipop. It's going to be fine. Think of customers like that. Don't take it personally. They're not attacking you or even the company. Sometimes they're just having a bad day and they need someone to shout to. So it's about making them feel like they've been heard. You are agreeing it's completely unreasonable. I can't believe the company did this to you. And let them feel better and calm down. And usually you can afford to give them something, either a refund or a free this. Some companies are even strict. We'll give you store credit. You can come back. We'll give you some samosas next time. So sorry. There's nothing I can go back in time and change. You just have to communicate it in a fun way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nataliey. My name is Charles. My question is, with your experience in business, as for us as startups, is it worth it to continue with a product that whose solution you have found that is in the market? Oh, let me give for example, the scrubbing brushes and the little squeezers that I know everybody has in their houses right now, they do break because what is in the market is a cheap stick. And as a startup, you find out that is a problem and you improve it. But when you improve it, it costs higher. So is it worth to give it attention and continue because it is a little bit higher in price, but does it perfect? But there is there's a competitor out there that does it way worse, and everybody does not like it, but they use it because it is cheap. So is it worth to continue? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Victor. I work with Unleashed, a refugee-led organization, and I'm happy. Actually, I saw your post when you were in Changwale. We are having actually other refugees here, so we're actually happy to see you and the work you're doing. Yes, thank you. I have two questions. The first one is, as a founder and also managing director, I actually experience a lot of things when it comes to people who work with me. How do you deal with the people? Like, you spoke of systems, you spoke of delegation, is something I've been trying. However, there is this mindset where you find that just people are not delivering. They are not delivering the way I should deliver or the way I'm expecting. And at a certain point, you are at a point where, again, the work comes back. It comes back to me, and I'm the one actually to correct and then make sure, and then I spend sleepless nights. That's point one. Number two, from your background of business, how did you deal with investment? How did you decide, or even as a family, the investment part of it? How do you know that this can work and we can actually invest in this, and how do you proceed to make a successful business? Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Kezia. I work with Umeme. So my questions are really personal. I wanted to ask you about now that your father is your boss and at a certain point he's a bit strict with you. I wanted to know about the other life of yours, like when you'll have to decide to raise your own children and then have your own husband and run your own home and bring up these children. Then also, I wanted to know, how will you cope with that? Then also, growing up, I heard you started business at 10. I wanted to know, how did you handle education? Your education, you're now a doctor, but most of the times you're in business. How did you handle education and business at the same time? Thank you.
Okay, let me go through the first three. Toilet brush, scrubbing brush. I feel like that's a question of innovation. So I wouldn't say it's like a yes or no, it's not worth it. you have to go through the ideation process, right? Think about your total addressable market. How many people are using scrubbing brushes, right? And what is their pain point and how much is that worth? So I feel like that question is for your customers. If you've innovated and now you know these brushes are so much better, if you think about who are your customers, are you going to target hotels who have to buy how many of them all the time? Are you targeting housewives who are the ones cleaning their houses? Are you targeting restaurants, hospitals, commercial places that need cleaning, or cleaning companies? Talk to them and get the feedback. It's called getting out of the building, right? You do the research, you have the idea, go and talk to your actual customers. Would you pay 10,000 more for a brush that's going to last 3 years rather than this cheap brush that you know you're going to have to replace every 3 months? Find the people who are already buying those brushes. Go talk to the supermarkets. How many brushes do you sell per month? And then try to understand your customer. Am I buying a brush every 3 months? It's costing me 10K. If I spend an extra 10K, I'll buy one brush every 3 years. I will definitely buy your brush. Innovate for us. Make it. You know, you have to see it that way and see if it's worth it to your customers. And then see in that margin, is that worth it to mass produce them? Because that's what you're thinking about, right? So you have to do the projections of it after taking your customers' feedback to understand. Maybe they'll pay 10,000 more, but would I pay 100,000 more for a scrubbing brush? No. I would rather just buy that every 3 months. The 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Of course, it doesn't add up, but people don't make decisions very logically, you know? You know how you have like big bags of Omo and Omo comes in like 20 sizes? The small packets that you can use for one thing and then the bag that would last you like a year. That big bag, of course, is cheaper than the small packets. If I bought a packet of Omo every day, the time it would take me to use that amount, it doesn't make sense. But of course, who is going to invest all their money in a giant sack of Omo? You'd rather buy the small packets that you manage, or now once I've grown to a certain level, I'll get the middle-sized bag. You get what I mean? It's not just logical, it's cheaper, it makes sense. It's about people's lifestyle, their habits, what makes sense to them, what is normal to them, and how much that thing disturbs them. If there's something that everyone says now is going to make you lose weight, people will pay no matter the amount. You get what I mean? Because that's a huge pain point in someone's life. If I can tell you that, I can tell you, eat this one thing every day, you never have to eat food again. You'll pay it no matter the cost. But if it's something that I don't care about, I'm going to pay extra money. Give me the China version, it's okay. So that's why you need to interact with your customers to understand how serious is that pain point and what is it worth. Is it worth the 5,000, 100,000? And is that amount worth investing now and building this product out? Okay. Systems, people, teams, right? Delegating. I think the first thing with delegating that's your responsibility is choosing the right person. I know it's tempting to just hire your relatives or like teenagers because they're cheaper, but sometimes it costs you more in the long run, right? I think also we have a lot of unemployment and underemployment, so it's a really great time to get great people at a cheaper rate, if I'm honest. People who have the right attitude and want to learn and want to deliver, you can negotiate because they need the experience and they want the salary, like it's worth it. The other thing is you also have to make sure people understand what you understand by success. And that's something that we take for granted. You know this is the deliverable. You know what it looks like. But when you explain it to them, are they really understanding the same thing you've told them? And do they have a way to measure it and track it? Because it's easy to tell someone you're not delivering. Then they think they're delivering. What is the problem? So as the founder, it's your responsibility to make sure that your team has what they need to deliver. The information, the target, the training, the tools. You can't say, I need you to sell 50 shirts, but there's only 2 shirts in your shop. And now you're blaming that guy for only selling 2 shirts. You have to make sure you empower them to be able to do their jobs. And then you're measuring it. This is where I always fight for transparency. Show, and I tell you, these are your KPIs. This is what I expect from you on a day-to-day. So when you're doing it or not doing it, you're also aware. So by the time it comes to fire you because you haven't delivered, we are all in agreement, please. Let's not fight. You also know. And that's also how you'll see what's missing. Is it they don't have the skill? They don't know where to go? They don't know what to do? Why does it keep coming back to you? You have to look out for those things and learn from it. Okay, now I know I need to hire this kind of a person. This is the training they need. This is the supervision they need. Is it every day I check how many sales did you make? Did you clean up the shop? Did you lock? What are the systems you need to put in place? Because at the end of the day, it's your business. So delegation is a whole art on its own. And you need to also experiment for yourself to see how to handle it like that. What was your second question? Oh, investment. Criteria. Me, I like things that are clear and transparent and logical, right? So you always have to have a gut feeling in things, but you have to do the numbers. You have to make an assessment on something. How much is this going to be worth? What's the potential? And I think with also time, like now when I meet entrepreneurs and startups, they're always like the overzealous ones who give you their deck and they think they're going to make millions of dollars in 1 year. And I'm like, you've not even sold 2, but you're here telling me you're going to sell 100,000. Do you even know how you're going to convert? How many people you're going to have to advertise that? Like, there's so much that's missing. So I think the criteria we look for is, firstly, why are we getting in this industry? Because we have to think about the macroeconomics. The size of the companies that we build are on a bigger scale. So we have to think, is this in line with government policy? Is this in line with the law? Is what the season of politics we're in? Is it going to make sense? And then you have to think about, why is it you doing this business? What advantage do you have? What is the edge you're going to bring? Do you have more technical ability? Do you have experience? Do you have a contract that no one else has? For us, it made sense to build Skies because we'd had Protea for 10 years. So now we already know all the hotel systems. We know what to do. It's easier to expand. Otherwise, why would you do that? So you also have to have these kinds of questions you ask yourself, because there's so much opportunity everywhere. So you need to do like a assessment. Does the financials make sense? Does the logic make sense? What are the resources that's going to require? For example, with Uketa, I really underestimated the resources. I had the idea. I had done online courses. I knew how it just made sense to me. It's easy. Get the developer guy, build me a website. Here are the courses. Ria was handling all the coaches, doing all the curriculum. I was like, okay, I'll see you guys in a year. It should be fine. No. There are so many other things you have to like assess. The understanding, the discounts, the team, the facilitation, the sales, the glitches, payment plans. Like, there's so many small details that you can't see before you enter a business. So when you're assessing before you invest in it, you also have to really want to make it work. A year ago, I could have easily said, Bambi, Uketa, I had a nice idea to do things for people, but it's okay. But I really believe in education, and I really believe and I can understand. And when I look at the demographics of Africa, the populations, we're such a young population. We have access to information. I have all the reports and statistics from Telecom showing me about mobile phone usage, how more people have internet, how many women versus men, what age groups. So I can connect those dots and see investing in an online education platform today makes a lot of sense. So as much as it's tough in the first year, in the second year, the third year, now it will only just continue to grow because you go through those things. So I always say, take a step back, big picture, have your investment criteria, and then see how you want to move forward. Then on the personal side, balancing education and business is hard. But like I said, organization is the biggest thing I can tell you. You have to be organized. There's been times where I am doing courses or classes and I'm also working full-time. It's hard, it's difficult. There's a lot of sacrifice. They're just things you're going to have to sacrifice. For me, the easiest thing to sacrifice is always sleep, which catches up with you later, so you have to make it up. Then you can sacrifice other things like your social time or downtime, but you have to know what you're sacrificing and for how long. If you're going to do a 2-year master's program while you're working, you're going to need a support system. I have a cousin who just gave birth to her 4th child while she was doing LDC. She's like a superstar and she has a full-time job and a side business. But she needed a team around her to help her through this process. Her husband had to be on board because you have to go to class, you have to study, you have to pass, you're tired, you're sick, you have other kids, you have demands, you have the job. You have to have a village with you. So you have to assess what is your goal and how can I make this goal happen? What are the resources going to be required? Is it time? Is it energy? Is it money? Is it sacrifice? And you plan it out, the whole thing, so that you be organized, so that you understand what it's going to take. And you remember to stay determined because it's easy to give up when things get hard. But you know the goal that you have, you know that you're going to be able to achieve it. Now it's about how do I plan for it? Sometimes people call it a pre-mortem. Like a post-mortem when someone has died and they have to see why it died. The person died. So in business, you do a pre-mortem. What will kill this company? Why won't it work out? Or a project, like I want to do this master's. What is going to be my biggest challenge? Is it my kids? Is it my husband? Is it my time, my job? Some people get fired when the boss finds out that they're doing a master's degree. It's hard because they now feel your time is now being sacrificed. So you also have to assess in advance, what are the things going to slow me down? If I say I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, why won't I go? I'm tired, I forgot the gym clothes, I don't have the money for the gym. Ask those things before, so you set yourself up to succeed.
Thank you, Doctor, for such an insightful discussion. My name is Isaac Adams, and I'm an occupational health and safety specialist. So I deal with employees' well-being, burnout, stress management, and psychosocial support within workplaces. Now, you have mentioned your experience with burnout and stress, and visiting, having a psychologist or having a therapist that you talk to help you here and there. I would like to maybe hear from you more on how best, because the latest statistics from Gallup were saying that Uganda has one of the most stressful workforces, and then we have the most least engaging employees. So now that is one of the gap that shows that we are the problem. Now, from the your position as chief of staff, managing people, dealing with people, how best have you encouraged your employees to deal with mental health, to deal with psychosocial support, to deal with their personal life, burnout, life after work? Yeah, I know the moderator has been so hard on your life after work, but like you said, you have gym and other things that you deal with. So I wanted to know, at Simba, do you have a partner to assist you in occupational health and safety services, an outside body to come and assess your employees vis-a-vis feeling like, okay, the HR is going to talk about it with maybe the MD or the other person that is not that is not supposed to be listening to this conversation, and then it becomes cabals about me within the workplace. So yeah, I was asking about that, and if you don't, I'll be willing to share with you the proposal as well, and maybe my business card at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. My name is Abaho Regan Kashoma from Binav Technologies. I also have a startup called Get Cassava, which deals in selling cassava online. It's a startup. One of the challenges I find in that is meeting the legal requirements before the business is scaling up. So from your experiences and all the startups you've done and so on, so what should we know? Or in most times it's law that follows innovation, but sometimes the legal requirements follows you when you are trying to scale up your business and stuff. So from your experience and all what you've done, what kind of advice do you give me as a startup who has not scaled up, that I'm employing many people, or I'm just or I'm generating much money to meet all the legal requirements, including UNBS and all those stuffs? What would you advise me? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name's Luanda. I'm the founder of Tumaini for Refugee Women. We actually work to support refugee women. I have just a simple kind of question, because I've had you work with your dad, your family, and I've been actually trying to build up systems for so many times now in my company, and it's very hard to work with your siblings or your family members because sometimes they don't take things serious. And we've understood you're working with people, with partners, and you need to deliver. I'm kind of confused of what kind of policies can you implement in when you're implementing with your siblings, like as you're working with your father. So how is it very easy for you to work and deliver very much easily, while you're not saying this is the business of my dad, I can do whatever I want, or I can take any fund how I want, but you deliver. So what is the advice that you can tell someone who's working with their siblings or working with the family members, and what strategies or systems can they put in place in order their family member to deliver on how they want? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Nelson Wahabala. I work with Noble Financial Services, and I'm also a director of Winners Nasan Primary School. My question, madam, is as entrepreneurs, when you have an idea, you always do hard to protect your idea. in production, there is what we call business secrets. And in Uganda, being it that we have the hardest labor part of it, so many of us, when we go, or so many of employees, when they join an organization, for example, in production, after getting experience, they already think to start their own what? Businesses. So how do you manage competition and business secrets, being it that you have so many organizations and you are not within? I think my point is clear. Thank you.
Okay. Mental health in the workplace. You know, if I'm honest, I work with a lot of people from a lot of different countries. Ugandans, I would never recommend us in the sector of work ethic. We can never win. I think life is too nice for us. My dad says we have a nice climate, people are friendly. That's why we don't have hard work ethic. We don't suffer so much. When people live with like winter, or they don't have extended family to look after them or to give them free food, they learn how to work by force. So it's kind of a blessing, you know. Our people are nicer and more calm and relaxed. We're not as pushy and uptight. But it's also a big challenge. So we end up with a lot of managers that are not Ugandan, if I'm honest. Just because the work ethic is so much ahead, you don't have to push as much and stress as much and check as much. So it's easier to have some people like that. But it's also a personality temperament. So me now, I try to find that specific type A personality in managers, because then they're going to help us with the workload. I like your company idea, and I do think it's necessary, because employees' mental health is a big thing. You need happy staff if you're going to have any kind of results in your business. You can't just ignore them. They're human beings. So like I said, as we've gone from like a small system where everyone would go to my dad with their problems, I can't tell you how many people's wives have my dad's number. Oh, you know, he's at home, he's now behaving like this. Oh, he's not sleeping. Oh, he's cheating on me. Oh, he's what? And you've gone to your husband's boss? But people feel very comfortable to share their problems like that in our African culture. This one is getting married. This one is sick. This one fought with me in the office. This one stole my boyfriend. Like those, I feel like are personal issues. At least me, that's how I thought. But the truth is you're dealing with human beings, and you can't pull them apart and say, I only care about your work side of your life. So what we do, and I don't take any credit here, we have an amazing HR. Our HR director, he cares for every single employee like it's his own brother or child. He will sit there, he'll cry with you, he'll go for your wedding, for your funeral, he'll listen, and he has a team like that. So what us we do to support them is we get them trained. So in coaching, in courses, so they learn how to handle these things better. Because the truth is they're the ones on the front line. Me and my dad can't sit there and listen to everyone's marital problems. It's not efficient. We would love to, but we can't. And so it's better if the people on the front lines are there and you make that space. You make sure the offices are private. You make sure that they can have these conversations. You don't hire mean HRs. I don't know why people think it's good to be mean when you're an HR. You're not a headmistress. These are not children. Like, let's be kind and learn and love with compassion and what. And also have lots of different fun things. So they always have like football games, dance classes, they go on excursions, they went swimming, they went what. It helps to bond the team, see each other out of the workplace. Because also you need to have a rapport with your peers and have a positive environment. It also helps your mental health. You don't want people coming to work every day dreading work, where they're scared or they're sad or they're upset or like a boss is bullying them. Another thing, you have to make a culture for whistleblowers. So that one we always encourage. My dad encourages it in a way I don't agree with. He gives his personal phone number to everyone. You'll be in a town hall with more people than this in a room, and he's like, get your phones. My number is 077, and everyone takes his number and they WhatsApp him personally. This one has refused my promotion. This one has done this. So sometimes it doesn't work out in a good way, but you have to have that culture so you don't have someone who is making the work environment negative for everyone. And you also have to keep learning and growing. There's so much about mental health we're only just realizing. And now it's good that there's studies and statistics to show and different things to motivate your staff to make sure that things get done and you keep a positive workplace. So we can call you for trainings if you do that. You work in agriculture, right? You said cassava? So I think the legal requirements in your field are kind of important, unfortunately. I know there's a lot of like cost towards it, but when you're working with something like food that people are going to ingest, there's a reason for UNBS. And also for your customers to have confidence in your product. I can't buy your cassava when I don't know your processes have been checked, that it's clean, it's safe, there's nothing mixed in it. I have to think of who is going to eat it. So I think some sectors are stricter than others, but legal requirements are there for a reason. Yes, innovation is always ahead of the legal requirements. So also put yourself on a standard where you know you have confidence in your product because of the measures you're taking to do it. Legal things do cost money, and I don't encourage startups to pay for things that they don't need early on. You don't need audited accounts when you're still a small startup. You don't need, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, NSSF and those things. I think you're supposed to legally have it. But like when you're still small, it's a casual worker, there's ways around certain things till you reach a certain point. But you don't want to jeopardize your customers or your product. That's why I'm saying in your sector specifically, look at those legal requirements and ask why they exist, and at least hold yourself to that standard until you can pay for it. Because there's a reason. If you have now some product and now there's an outbreak and people are sick, your whole company is going to be shut down. And also you have that on your hands that you did this to people. So you have to also assess it with some level of reasonability, you know? Working with your family. I can't say I would ever recommend it. It's a challenge. But funny enough, what's helped me is not business stuff, it's therapy things. The things I've learned in therapy is what has helped us with boundaries in our family. So like I've learned not to fight with my brothers in the meeting. When I can see we're both not agreeing, and it's going to make life confusing for all the managers. If I've told them one thing, he's told them one thing, we have to take it offline. We'll even text, let's discuss this at home, where we can shout and fight properly. Then we come to a conclusion, then we send an email, you know? You put in those kinds of systems. That's what I mean. You also know your family members. And the thing with family members, you know the expression, they push your buttons? It's because they're the ones who installed those buttons. You have that button because that same brother used to irritate you as a child. So now you're in the office and he's doing the same thing to you. So it's really hard. That's why I feel like the working relationship with family members is very difficult to manage in the challenging times when you're arguing. May I even work with my uncles and aunties. Some of them I outrank. Now it's awkward in the meeting. I can't start calling you auntie in the meeting. I don't want to disrespect you. We all have to have different like code names. I can't call my dad in the meeting. So you have to put certain things in place for a level of professionalism. But that's not the conversation you have in the office. That's the conversation you have at the dinner table when things are calm and everyone's happy. So you guys, I think in certain situations, we have to present a more united front. We have to be more professional. Can we agree here? If this is happening in the meeting, we can have a code word, or I can kick you and we're like, hey, you're doing that thing. Let's talk about it at home. You have to have those nuanced things that help you to have a professional side and a family side. Sometimes I tell my mother when she's upset, my dear, you're not talking to your husband, you're talking to your boss. He has told us no, stop fighting. And she's getting upset in the office and she has to like, okay, fine. But like, you have to pull each other in and have those moments. And remember, there's a reason you have those things. There are many advantages with working with your family. You know each other, you know what drives each other, you know each other's strengths and weaknesses. You can talk about it. I'll be at like a wedding or a birthday party and me and my brothers are like figuring out a work problem. And like we solve it. So there's also nice things and like seeing them and hanging out with them, and the office has a friendly face sometimes on a hard day, you know? So you have to agree on those things, I think, in the private time before you're in the workplace, and agree on what kind of family business is it. How open are we going to be? Do we really need the staff to see us fighting? Should we be hugging in the office? Do we really need to call each other mom and dad? Some families like that, and that's the energy they have in the office, and everyone calls them that. One of my cousins, all the workers call her dad daddy, and I'm just like, that's weird. But us, we call our dad chairman, which she thinks is weird. So you have to find what works for you and agree and be on the same page. That's what's most important. Like what you're saying with taking funds in and out of the company, you have to understand why that is wrong and you all agree, or what the system should be and you all agree. Once you talk about it when you're in a good mood and a good state, don't wait till it's a fight and there's chaos and it's bad. You see all these land wrangles, families in court. It's sad. If you can agree on these things early, you all agree to it. Sometimes you even sign for it. I remember in business school, we'd have to work in teams. Well, but it's realistic because in life you have to work in teams. But every time you're on a new team, you first had to sign a charter. You all agree the rules of operation. If someone is late, what is the consequence? If someone doesn't do their thing, what is the consequence? If someone does well, what is the consequence? We all agree, we all sign. Now me who was always late, I've already agreed I'm going to pay that fine every time I'm late. Can't now start crying when I'm late, I don't want to pay the fine. We agreed in a calm, sober way, all of us. You don't wait till it's heated and now it's worst case scenario. So even when you start a company, I think one of my first companies, one of my friends as a business partner, the lawyer is like, you have to think of worst case scenario. If you sue each other, what happens? If you die, who gets the company? So those kinds of things that you think are crazy, I'm 22, why do I need to know this? You agree on those things when people are calm and happy and have the ability to engage. Once you're emotional and you're already upset, you're not going to talk sense, you're going to say things you regret, it's too late. So talk to your family members and agree and be on the same page about what kind of business are we trying to run? What are our goals and how are we going to get there? Let's agree. Then it takes time. Be calm and kind with each other. Sometimes you'll forget and do it, but remind each other. Have compassion. Understand. I know he has a date this weekend with the girlfriend's birthday. He's coming to take our company money for the girl's birthday. So some things you can foresee and remind and tell them, have you been saving? Have you been planning? You know, because you have that level of transparency between you and you build that relationship from there. And then the last question. Remind me what sector it was about? Protecting your ideas. So here, I don't know if it's a controversial answer. I don't think you have to protect your ideas. You're never going to run out of customers. I can't tell all the other, I'd be upset every time a hotel opens. Do you know how many people are here every day? There'll always be more customers. Our population, our economy, I don't think there's anyone who says I have no customers. Maybe the banks be looking for customers now. They feel saturated, but now it's because they have to look at the next level. I think what makes your business unique is you. Even someone who has worked with you can't just replicate it. I've had so many staff who go and copy our business and go and do that business, but they'll do it in a different way. That's their way, in their district, with their people, in their own style and their scale. I don't know. I feel like it's a waste of your energy to try and do that. It's not like you have the recipe for Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? Because even Coca-Cola has Pepsi on their neck. So you do what you can in the best way you can do it. Your customers will appreciate you and your touch and your flavor and the way you handle it. And you have to trust that that's enough. You can't start thinking of other people and their problems. You have enough problems of your own. You put your energy on being the best of you that you can be. If you have something that's like IP, it's corporate, you can sue someone, it's an innovation, you better move fast. The sooner you get to market, the better. You know how many people be like, I had that idea 5 years ago. Oh, why didn't you execute it? Do it and do it quickly. Get it out there in the market. And if someone innovates, you have to be like, wow, that was smart. Okay, let me pull up my socks. Let me see what I can do. Wasting time trying to protect things. First, it's so hard legally to enforce anything in Africa. We don't really understand confidentiality in our culture. Everyone talks everyone's kabozi in the office. I saw this one's contract, this one's salary, this one did this last week. I feel like those ones, it's like herding chickens. You're just wasting your energy. Focus on doing the best you can do and know that that's good enough.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for Doctor. So, Doctor, we have a culture here, and usually it's usually the last question. But before I bring the last question, some people are already laughing about that question. Before I bring it, I remember my first ever date with a lady was at Skies, and it was on 6th of June, 2022. Yeah, I'm that old. But why I say that? Because I remember the services up to today. Yeah, apart from the samosas, I remember everything else. But then why I'm bringing that part is that our last question is usually on relationships. And what we've noticed is that founders, business owners don't want to get married. And we want to know how is it on your side and what is your recommendation. But as you answer that part, we'll request you later on as we close to give a gift to one of the people here. One of our core values at StartHub is ownership. So one of the ladies came in first and volunteered to do the registration for other people. So we'll give her a gift, yeah, later on at the end. But then the question.
Okay. It's not that we don't want per se, but I think it's very hard when you date an entrepreneur. Imagine, because we are workaholics and we're already invested so much in our businesses. So to make space for another person and like take that on is hard. One of my best friends is a very corporate person. She's never been an entrepreneur in her life. She married an entrepreneur. And I swear the first year of them dating, she used to call me every week. He said he's too busy. He said he's this. He's stuck at the office. Is he lying? Is it true? Is this what your life is like? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes we're stuck at the office till midnight. He's not lying. So there are so many things you have to understand. And the truth is, I feel like we get used to our business being our whole life. Like I said, I didn't have hobbies, I didn't have a life. I'll see my friends or my cousins sometimes, but this is the meat of my life. And then you get to a point where you realize you do need to have a relationship. You do need to make time for these things. And the beauty is, as crazy as our schedules are, they're also much more flexible. My current partner has a corporate job. Him is a 9 to 5 kind of a person. So it's my schedule that is more flexible, that we can do stuff around what I want. But also it has been an adjustment for me to want that in my life and to make time and space for it. When I was recording the podcast with my dad, he was telling the story of how he took a year off to court my mother. He's like, I had to leave the business to my brothers. I had to focus. I knew I wanted to get married. For him, it was like a goal and a target. He found the person. He's like, now invest. So that's what I've done. In the last 1 year, I have worked less. I've spent more time on my relationship. Now his year is finishing. It's time to like find the new balance. Because life, business, everything is mixed together. But if you're organized and intentional about it, you see it, you do it. One of the videos I filmed today about the productivity apps I was saying was calendar. You can see date night in my calendar. It's there. We've gone for lunch. We've gone for dinner this weekend. Everyone has to work around the system. So you can be intentional about it and you can make space. But I can see how it might be a bit harder for entrepreneurs. And I still think it's something that's worth it. It's worth making the time. It's worth making the space because it's wonderful to be in a relationship. It's good to have a partner, and human beings are not designed to be alone. I think it's one of the reasons we have so many mental health challenges now. Loneliness is really bothering people. With so much independence, we've also become too lonely. You don't share your life with someone. And it's easy to fall into that system and to have acquaintances or workmates or friends who you see once in a while, but every day you're really alone. You need someone to ask you, how was your day? Are you okay? And that's an important aspect, especially as an entrepreneur. And when you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, they always have partners. Me, I always used to say, I need a wife. I don't need a husband. I need a wife, someone who's going to also look after me so I can look after the business. So now in the modern world, you kind of have to adjust what that looks like and find a balance. So you support each other. You look after each other so that you can both be the best person that you can be.
Okay, entrepreneurs marry. Okay. Another round of applause for Doctor. I think she has done such a great job. And guys, I watched over 50 videos to do this interview. Another round of applause for me, Okay. So we give a gift to the lady who helped us with the registration. Please come and get a gift from Doctor.